Chapter 301. Eating alone. Wang Hao, can you simplify that a bit? Xia Weiwei looked at Wang Hao with a pitiful expression. As a top student, how could she tolerate Wang Hao's disdainful look? I'm really defeated by you guys, you can't even understand such a simple thing. Wang Hao shook his head and sighed. To put it simply, since everyone's birth time is different, the method to enter this palace is also different. No way! The crowd present exclaimed in shock. It was their first time hearing that entering a palace required checking one's birth time. Wang Hao nodded. To enter this palace, you must choose the right time and direction, otherwise, no matter how capable you are, you won't be able to get in. Hiss! The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air, marveling at how those ancient humans could come up with such a complicated method of entry. Then junior brother, do you know how to enter? Ling Xiao asked. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's eyes simultaneously turned to Wang Hao. Of course. Wang Hao raised his head proudly. Just give me the birth time, and I can calculate the exact time and direction to enter. Can you calculate it for us? Li Xian looked at Wang Hao hopefully. Wang Hao took out a contract and said solemnly, just sign this contract, and I will definitely calculate it for you. Li Xian curiously took the contract and saw that it was a made contract with various indescribable and unreasonable demands, and what's worse, the contract was permanent. Wang Hao. Li Xian glared at Wang Hao furiously. Ah, if you won't sign, then goodbye. Wang Hao shook his head, turned on his heels and easily entered the protective shield of the palace, then he smiled, waved at the crowd, and turned to enter the palace. Seeing this, a few young men quickly rushed towards where Wang Hao had entered, but they were all repelled by the palace's outer shield. At that moment, a burst of astonishment rose from the crowd. Wang Hao actually went in? Isn't that amazing? Why can't we enter? Wang Hao said it already, didn't he? You need to check the birth time and align it with the time and place. Has anyone heard of the Lu Ren God calculation? Heard of it my ass. What about yin yang, the three powers, the four symbols, who knows what stuff that is? He truly is a super genius who can stir up the world, able to enter such a palace with ease. Stop marveling at how awesome Wang Hao is, this guy's achievements are well known to be superhuman, we need to find a way in ourselves. That's right, there are many treasures in this ancient relic, but they have all been cleaned out, only this tightly secured palace hasn't been visited, there must be unimaginable treasures inside. Quickly notify those treasure hunters to come here, we absolutely cannot let Wang Hao have it all to himself. That's right, those scattered treasures outside are useless, it's the treasures inside the palace that matter. Shi Xiong approached Xue Qunqin and asked in a low voice, Miss Qunqin, what should we do now? Xue Qunqin's brows furrowed. Wang Hao never puts himself in danger. Since he dared to openly enter, he will undoubtedly be able to leave just as openly. But I'm afraid he's scheming something again, so I'm leaving first. Xia Weiwei pursed her lips, then signaled to her family's martial king to start searching for the scattered treasures in the ancient ruins. As for the treasures in this palace, with Wang Hao, that plucker around, he would definitely scour everything clean. And those who planned to snatch treasures from Wang Hao would surely end up doubting their lives, so it was best for her to leave, to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Li Xian glanced at the palace and called over the martial king of the Adventurers Guild, following Xia Weiwei as they left. Clearly, she also understood that getting treasures from Wang Hao's hands was simply unrealistic. What are you doing? Ling Xiao looked coldly at the martial king behind him. Mr. Ling, we were just about to send a message to... Shut up, Ling Xiao snorted coldly, without my order, no one is allowed to send any messages back. Yes. The martial kings exchanged glances, then quietly stopped causing any trouble. Ling Xiao looked at the palace and murmured softly, Junior brother, this is as far as I can help you, after all, the boss leading the president's mansion this time isn't me. At that moment, Wang Hao walked through the palace, his eyes shimmering with golden light. In front of him was a jade platform floating with many colorful glowing gems, which Xue Qunqin had introduced to him as inheritance crystals. There are actually 28 inheritance crystals here. Wang Hao was instantly excited. According to his knowledge, the president's mansion, which stored the most inheritance crystals within the Interstellar Federation, possessed a total of 40 crystals. And now he alone could possess 28 inheritance crystals, the mere thought of it made him feel dizzy. This is... Wang Hao suddenly froze. Among these inheritance crystals, there was a red crystal, unusually large with dense mysterious runes etched on it. Could this be the legendary, top-level, divine-level inheritance crystal? Wang Hao suddenly found happiness coming too suddenly. It was known among inheritance crystals that there was a peculiar kind, that couldn't bestow any attribute elements to a person, but it could endow one with divine power. Once merged with this divine power, it could transform a person's physique, permanently doubling one's potential and strength. Even if someone had used inheritance crystals and gained dual attributes, they could still use this divine-level inheritance crystal. Moreover, many believed that the divine power in this divine-level inheritance crystal might possibly come from an ancient divine. Right, if I'm not mistaken, Xia Wei, that violent little loli, seems to have used a divine-level inheritance crystal, right? Wang Hao scratched his chin, remembering that when he had left Earth, Xia Wei's strength had suddenly surged. Moreover, according to Xia Wei, she had used her family's inheritance, but given her cultivation at the time, it was clearly impossible for her to use those attribute-bearing inheritance crystals, so the only option could have been this divine-level inheritance crystal. Xia used it when she was just a martial master, so I should have no problem using it now as a martial arts sect, right? Wang Hao thought, already reaching out for the divine-level inheritance crystal. When Wang Hao grabbed the divine-level inheritance crystal, the inside of the palace suddenly stirred up a storm, and bolts of lightning struck towards Wang Hao. Ah! The next second, Wang Hao screamed miserably, his entire body enveloped by the lightning. At the same time, the remaining 27 inheritance crystals on the platform also rose into the air, began circling around Wang Hao, releasing their own attribute power. And after his miserable scream, Wang Hao fainted, but the true qi within his body began circulating on its own, following the pathways of the martial radiance heavenly demon skill, completing grand circulation after grand circulation. Meanwhile, news of Wang Hao entering the palace spread through the ancient ruins, causing all the treasure-seeking youths and maidens to swarm toward the palace. Chapter 302. Ancient Ruins, inside the palace. Time had slipped away unknowingly, and the ball of thunder and lightning that enveloped Wang Hao slowly dissipated, and those inheritance crystals returned to the jade platform atop which they rested. When Wang Hao's eyes snapped open, a fierce light lurked within their pitch-black depths, as if piercing through the heavens. Ooh, that feels so good! Wang Hao moved his body and discovered that after being transformed by what was referred to as divine power, not only had his strength increased, but even the true qi within him seemed different. Moreover, his cultivation had broken through to level 1, reaching the martial arts sect 3rd level. This true qi, Wang Hao furrowed his brow as he recalled information about the cultivation technique he practiced, the martial radiance heavenly demon skill. It was said that the martial radiance heavenly demon skill was created by 18 demon gods jointly, making it a technique with exceptionally high compatibility. And this special true qi within him seemed to be a new kind of true qi produced after absorbing the attribute energy from those inheritance crystals. Moreover, by merging with the divine level crystal stone's divine power, his true qi underwent a revolutionary change, becoming at least 3 to 4 times stronger than before. Woo woo! Little Master Bunny slept so comfortably. Little White stretched lazily, crawling out from Wang Hao's hat and jumped onto his shoulder, hugging a carrot and began munching away. Wang Hao glanced at the gluttonous rabbit and surmised that it too must have reaped many benefits just now. After Wang Hao collected the 28 inheritance crystals, he began to survey the palace once more. Before long, Wang Hao saw a half-meter tall piece of green bamboo that emitted a soft glow. However, this bamboo wasn't growing from the soil, but was suspended in mid-air. This is Little Master Bunny's. Little White's eyes remained fixated on the green bamboo, slobber dripping from its mouth, then without a moment's hesitation, it threw away the carrot in its hands and went forward to hug the bamboo. Wang Hao's brows knitted together, he felt certain that this bamboo must be a treasure, or else this gluttonous rabbit wouldn't even toss aside its beloved carrot. As Little White strapped the green bamboo on its back and returned to sit on Wang Hao's shoulder, it immediately rubbed its fluffy face against Wang Hao's cheek in a coaxing manner. "Dear brother Wang Hao, can Little Master Bunny keep this bamboo stick?" Wang Hao rolled his eyes. "You can have it, but first, tell me, what is this green bamboo?" Little White shook its small head. "Little Master Bunny doesn't know, but its aura seems to speed up my cultivation quite a bit." Cultivation speed increased. Wang Hao curiously took the green bamboo in hand, but there was no reaction from his true qi. However, he discovered that this bamboo appeared to be particularly hard. Noticing this, Wang Hao drew out his level 5 alloy giant sword and swiftly chopped at the green bamboo, only to find that there wasn't even a scratch on it. "What kind of bamboo is this, to be so hard?" Wang Hao's expression altered slightly as he took out the sharp light giant sword and chopped at the green bamboo, again with no mark left on it. A treasure, an absolute treasure! Wang Hao exclaimed in delight, harder than level 6 alloy, the origin of this green bamboo was definitely extraordinary. Wang Hao, you mustn't damage little Master Bunny's treasure. Little White swiftly snatched the green bamboo back and started to carefully wipe it. Wang Hao paid no attention to Little White and called upon the system in his mind. How many sin points can this green bamboo be exchanged for? System prompt: the origin of this green bamboo is extraordinary, the system does not recommend the host to recycle it. Not recommended for recycling. Wang Hao was overjoyed. The fact that even the system didn't recommend recycling it meant it was definitely an extraordinary treasure. But what made Wang Hao somewhat frustrated was that he couldn't use this treasure himself, and yet a rabbit could use it. What kind of nonsense was that? Forget it, no matter how good the treasure is, it's useless if I can't use it. I might as well let Little White keep it. Wang Hao put aside his feelings and began to scavenge around the palace. After Wang Hao scavenged around, he didn't find a single valuable item, they were all unimpressive trash. Throwing them to the system, he only got 30,000 sin points in exchange. Boom! Just then, the entire palace suddenly started shaking violently, and a deafening roar filled his ears. What's happening? Little White looked around, puzzled. Wang Hao said with a cold face, it's probably those guys outside. They plan to blow up the palace's shield with bombs. Doesn't that mean we're in danger? In panic, Little White took green bamboo from behind and put it into her dimension space to prevent it from being targeted by those outside. After the rumble, a voice came from outside, Wang Hao, hurry up and come out of the palace, or our combined forces will definitely level it. Wang Hao snorted coldly, flicked his wrist, and the light dragon spaceship appeared inside the palace. Yeah. Let's go teach them a lesson. Little White happily jumped up and then entered the light dragon spaceship with Wang Hao. Outside the palace at this moment, two groups of people were facing off against each other. One group was led by Ling Xiao and Shuek Yunqin, but their numbers were a little low, only 30 to 40 people. The other group, however, was much larger, easily totaling 700 to 800 people. Ling Xiao's face was somber as he looked at the young man leading the opposing side, the president's son, Liao Yunchuan. He had thought he could delay until Wang Hao came out, but who knew that once Wang Hao went in, he would stay for 3 days and nights. And after 3 days had passed, Liao Yunchuan managed to get the message regardless. As soon as Liao Yunchuan arrived, he immediately allied with all the major powers that had entered the ruins, combined all their bombs, and planned to violently break the palace's shield. Ling Xiao, you're going too far. Liao Yunchuan took a deep breath, unable to describe what he was feeling inside. Truth be told, when Ling Xiao pursued his girlfriend, Liao Yunchuan didn't take it seriously. After all, he was the future president of the Interstellar Federation, and using a woman to attract a genius like Ling Xiao seemed worth it to him. But the fact that Wang Hao entered the palace and Ling Xiao didn't inform him was something he couldn't accept. The entire ancient ruin had been scavenged by the major powers, and although there were plenty of treasures inside, not a single inheritance crystal had been found. Thus, there was a 90% chance that there would be an inheritance crystal inside the palace. How could the presidential mansion, which based its prosperity and stability on the inheritance crystals, miss out on this? Liao Yunchuan, the person who went in is my junior brother. If you dare touch him, don't blame me for turning on you, Ling Xiao snorted coldly. Ling Xiao, can't you use your brain for once? Liao Yunchuan said, frustrated. Wang Hao is your junior brother, but he couldn't possibly belong to our presidential mansion. I don't care about that. If anyone dares touch my junior brother, I will not let them off. Ling Xiao's face was stern. To him, Wang Hao was his junior brother, and he had suffered a lot since he was a child. Hence, as his senior brother, it was his responsibility to protect him. Chapter 303. Ling Xiao, we both need to calm down. Liao Yunchuan took a deep breath. You know how important the inheritance crystal is to the presidential mansion. To be honest, Wang Hao's identity is too sensitive for me to touch. All we need is for him to hand over the inheritance crystal, and everything will be fine. What do you think? Ling Xiao rubbed his forehead, wondering whether it was even possible for Wang Hao to hand over the inheritance crystal. Dream on. Shuek Yunqin spat out disdainfully, you can't crack this palace on your own, and now that Wang Hao has done it, you want to rob him? Is the presidential mansion just a bunch of bandits? Liao Yunchuan laughed uncontrollably, Miss Xue, even if I were robbing, I have the means to do so. The look on Xue Yunqian's face grew heavy as she stared across at the other side where the presidential mansion had over 500 people, and with other forces playing the opportunist, Liao Yunquan's side now numbered 700 or 800. Even if she sent a message to Xia Weiwei and Li Xian, asking them to come quickly to aid, their side could at most gather around 100 people and were completely unable to start a battle with the opposing side. Just then, Wang Hao's voice suddenly rang out, "Damn it, I hate it when people try to outdo me with their resources." Hearing his voice, everyone looked up only to see the vast size of the light dragon spaceship burst out of the palace, with all sorts of cannons aimed right at them. This instantly threw Liao Yunquan's people into chaos. How could the light dragon spaceship be here? Weren't we told that you can't bring large spaceships into the ancient ruins? I tried this time, and indeed you can't fly a spaceship in here. No, there's one possibility, they could have been brought in through dimension space. Brought in through dimension space? Are you sure there's a dimension space that large? No one else could do it, but Wang Hao just might. What do you mean by that? I've looked through Wang Hao's records. It said that when he was with the Yaotian Federation, he once stored a giant mecha along with 50 other mechas all into dimension space. A rabbit? A rabbit capable of manipulating dimension space. Right, they say this rabbit has a very high intelligence, it's Wang Hao's secret weapon. What kind of rabbit is it? Where can I buy one? It's a new demon beast created by the DY terrorist organizations, which ended up in Wang Hao's hands. No way. The rabbit has that kind of origin. Yes, it's very likely the only one of its kind in the world. Watching the black-barreled cannons on the light dragon spaceship, drops of sweat slid down Liao Yunquan's forehead. Based on the information he had compiled about Wang Hao, he knew Wang Hao was the kind of person who didn't shy away from trouble and even provocatively sought it out. Thus, he absolutely believed that if they provoked Wang Hao, it certainly would mean a grave for them all without a place to be buried. Now you guys have been kidnapped, hurry up and pay up, or don't blame me for not being polite, Wang Hao's icy voice transmitted. Ling Xiao and Xue Yunqian's faces darkened. Did this guy know what he was doing? They knew that this location was an assembly of the next generations of the top forces from the Interstellar Federation. If Wang Hao really kidnapped them, it was undoubtedly a provocation against the entire Interstellar Federation. Boom, boom, boom. Just then, the sky lit up as missile after missile drawing long tails blasted onto the light dragon spaceship's energy shield. The crowd was shocked and turned to see mechas flying from a distance towards them, firing at the light dragon spaceship. This is the military department's people. The crowd gasped collectively. Anyone capable of bringing mechas into the ancient ruins must be those who contracted the zombie virus, survived, and gained access to dimension space. And these new humans also possessed tremendous spiritual power, known to the world as the most perfect mecha warriors. And such perfect mecha warriors must have come from the military department, as other forces didn't have mechas to offer, making these new humans useless to them. Inside the light dragon spaceship, Wang Hao's eyes flashed with a touch of coldness. Li Yuniang dared to mess with his plans. Had he grown tired of his current situation and wanted a change of tune? Trying to play games with me? You're still too green, Li Yuniang. Wang Hao snorted coldly and activated all the firepower of the light dragon. The next second, the dark barrels of the light dragon fired missiles, beams of lasers, and bullets that cut through the void. Boom boom boom. Rat-a-tat. As various gunfire erupted, the people below immediately took to their heels, fearing they would be hit by stray bullets. Damn, Wang Hao really lives up to his reputation as the second largest shareholder of Skyfire Company. These arms are ferociously messed up. Look, those are level 4 rattlesnake missiles with a tracking feature. And there are laser-guided missiles, which can destroy second-level planets. And the armor-piercing bullets fired by the Gatling can deal level 4 damage. A mecha gets a hole with one hit. In just under a minute, Wang Hao has spent at least 10 billion interstellar coins. Truly gallant. We better get going, we can't mess with this Wang Hao. Right, in the ancient ruins, this guy is invincible, numbers don't matter. Liao Yunquan unwillingly looked up at the light dragon spaceship in the sky, realizing that with this ship in hand, no one in the ruins could defeat Wang Hao now. Now that there are no treasures left in the ruins, I might as well just wait for Wang Hao outside. Liao Yunquan thought for a moment, turned, and headed towards the exit of the ruins. He planned to inform the presidential palace in advance, they must not allow Wang Hao to take away the inheritance crystal. Watching Liao Yunchuan leave, Shuai Yunqin's brow furrowed, immediately sensing his intentions. Qian Qin, what's going on here? Li Xian and Xia Weiwei came over, both startled by the intense gunfire in the sky. Let's talk on the way, we need to leave these ruins first, Shuai Yunqin said as she pulled the two women and ran toward the exit. Meanwhile, inside the light dragon spaceship, Wang Hao's expression darkened. He had been firing for so long but only managed to shoot down 4 mechas, the other mechas were as nimble as mice and completely elusive. Humph, mechas are smaller than spaceships, so they're quicker, but being larger has its advantages. Wang Hao snorted coldly and activated 3 level 5 railguns on the light dragon. Holy crap, the light dragon actually has 3 railguns installed? What is Wang Hao planning to do with these? Rich and willful, but you don't play like this, right? Damn weapon merchants, I've been pushed around trying to buy 1 railgun, but they've installed 3. Stop talking, just run. That's right, run. Those 3-star sky missiles might collapse these ruins. Wang Hao is indeed a disaster, wherever he goes, things drastically change. After getting out, immediately board a ship and leave, I don't want to be kidnapped by Wang Hao. Wang Hao wouldn't dare to kidnap us, would he? This guy even dared to bomb the Yaotian Federation's prison star and casually sells official positions, do you think there's anything he wouldn't dare to do? That's a valid point, it's better to leave just in case. Right, otherwise, being kidnapped would be too embarrassing to mention. Makes sense, we should leave first. Chapter 304. Boom boom boom. The very next second, 3-star sky missiles were launched simultaneously, each fiercely striking the ground and creating 3 huge mushroom clouds. The terrifying explosion engulfed the surrounding mechas almost instantly, then the scorching airwaves quickly melted them. After firing the 3-star sky missiles, Wang Hao immediately activated the space jump, appearing at the exit of the ancient ruins, and then piloted the light dragon spaceship to burst out. But as soon as he emerged, Wang Hao saw a massive battleship marked clearly with the DY terrorist organization's insignia. Damn, these guys sure have perfect timing. Wang Hao muttered with a headache as he looked at the DY organization's battleship. Just then, the DY terrorist group's battleship launched a barrage of missiles towards the light dragon spaceship. Boom boom boom. Instantly, the light dragon spaceship was engulfed in gunfire. Warning, warning, spaceship energy shield damaged, 30%. Damn it, they really think I'm pushover with no temper. Wang Hao's expression turned cold immediately, without hesitation, he activated the 3 railguns again, but this time, instead of star sky missiles, he loaded a different kind of level 5 damage missiles, Dongfeng missiles. These were expensive missiles capable of carrying 6 warheads, each one more powerful than a star sky missile. And they could all hit the exact same spot, eventually punching a hole in the battleship's energy shield, then striking directly at the ship itself, known as the battleship's nemesis. Think you can play with me? I'm afraid you DY guys can't afford the game, Wang Hao snorted, but inside he was in immense pain. Chu Dong, the old man, knew he liked to stir things up, so he had specially given him 5 Dongfeng missiles for self-defense. But now, to use 3 right out of the gate, it felt like he was cutting his own flesh. Swoosh swoosh. At the very moment the 3 eastern missiles were fired, the piercing sound of them tearing through the air echoed between heaven and earth. However, as soon as the onlookers saw the Dongfeng missiles, they were all terrified, their eyes bulging, crying and screaming as they rushed onto their spaceships. Damn, Wang Hao, that madman, is actually using Dongfeng missiles. Firing 3 at once, that's 18 warheads in total, he's going to destroy half of level 4 Boda Star. Are the executives at Skyfire Company idiots? Giving such a weapon of mass destruction to Wang Hao. Stop talking nonsense, just run. Damn, I am never going to mess with Wang Hao again. No kidding, that guy is just a ticking time bomb, always quick to the trigger. I used to think the military department's nobility was domineering, but compared to Wang Hao, they're downright pathetic. I heard that after Guanxi's young nobles got messed up by Wang Hao at the auction, they dared not even leave their homes. No freaking way. Why not? If you got blown up by 3 level 4 grenades, wouldn't you have some lasting trauma? Level 4 grenades? What on earth does Wang Hao want to do? Isn't he afraid the nobility will come after him? Afraid? If he was, he wouldn't be launching Dongfeng missiles here. At this time, Shuai Yunqin, Lingling, and others had already followed Xia Weiwei and Li Xian onto their spaceship quickly. But when they saw Wang Hao launch the Dongfeng missiles, they were so scared that they quickly started the spaceship and steered it into space. Wang Hao, this big bad guy, can't he ever calm down? Li Xian said, her face pale with fright. Xia Weiwei curled her lips, if Wang Hao could ever calm down, I'd truly believe tomorrow would be the apocalypse. Shuek Yunqin shook her head, if it were a lawless end of the world, I believe Wang Hao would cause an even bigger commotion. Makes sense. The ladies nodded in agreement. Shi Xiong and Mu Xin exchanged glances, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes that just wouldn't subside. Although they knew Wang Hao wasn't afraid of trouble, they truly had not expected him to reach this kind of lawless realm. They discovered that whenever anything was out of Wang Hao's control, he would immediately resort to violence to solve it, and this level of violence was shockingly horrifying. You see, the Interstellar Federation, apart from using Dongfeng missiles for wars, had never used them during peacetime, even with significant conflicts between the major powers. But today, not only did Wang Hao use them, he launched 3 at once, totaling 18 warheads. This was an unprecedented explosion. Even they had already thought that tomorrow, there would be a flood of voices from the major powers condemning Wang Hao. At that moment, inside the warship of the DY terrorist organization, the withered demon was terrified by the Dongfeng missiles, crying out loudly in fear, "Quick, use all defense measures now. Lord Withered Demon, we've used all the defenses we can, but these are the warship killer Dongfeng missiles, and there are 3 of them. Unless we have a space gem, there's simply no escaping," a man said with a bitter smile. Boom boom boom. While they spoke, the warship of the DY terrorist organization suddenly shook violently, and the thunderous noise echoed in everyone's ears. At the same time, everyone inside the ship felt a terrifying heat wave, which would immediately scorch their skin if they touched it even slightly. And the spaceships of other factions in the sky, after seeing the flames that reached the heavens, sped up even more in fright. When they looked back, they saw the warship of the DY terrorist organization engulfed in fierce flames, the spaceship unsteady and quickly melting, obviously about to fail. With a ferocious expression, the withered demon commanded, "Launch all missiles, we must shoot down Wang Hao's spaceship." But the demon lord wanted him alive, a man hesitated to speak. "Alive my ass," the withered demon roared, "it's unknown whether we can even survive this, and he still wants to live? No way in hell." "Yes." Everyone responded and quickly activated the various weapons on the warship. Boom boom boom. The next second, a sky full of missiles, bullets, and lasers swarmed towards the Light Dragon spaceship. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for destroying an uninhabited level 4 planet, earning 200,000 sin points. Sigh, it's all because of the ancient ruins. To think not even a single creature survived, truly disappointing. Wang Hao shook his head and opened the space jump to leave. Just then, the entrance to the ancient ruins on the ground, the black mirror laid flat, suddenly burst apart, and a terrifying hurricane swept across the land and sky. "Wow, Wang Hao, you've really done it this time." The 3-star sky missiles just now made these ruins collapse. Little White covered its eyes, not daring to look anymore because the Light Dragon spaceship's position was directly above the ancient ruins. Which is to say, the Light Dragon spaceship was right in the center of the hurricane. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the missiles launched by the DY terrorist organization arrived, and the terrifying flames instantly engulfed the Light Dragon spaceship. "I can't believe this bad luck, main brain, quickly find me a landing spot." Wang Hao tightly gripped the spaceship's steering wheel, but he was still being tossed about wildly. Warning, energy shield damage at 95%. Nearest planet found, initiating space jump. Boom boom boom. Just then, the energy shield outside the Light Dragon spaceship suddenly shattered, and a stray bullet hit the engine at the rear of the ship. At the same time, the Light Dragon spaceship flashed with a bolt of lightning, disappearing from its original spot. Chapter 305. Tianma Star, Level 4. This was a beautifully serene planet, which also attracted many powerhouses tired of the hustle and bustle of large cities, coming here to spend their calm twilight years. Just then, the Light Dragon spaceship, trailing thick smoke behind it, broke through the atmosphere and plummeted toward the ground. Inside the spaceship, Wang Hao furrowed his brow looking at the pitch-black monitor. Why isn't there any response? Could it be that the electromagnetic field just now interfered and damaged the mainboard inside? Wang Hao, is this bunny going to die? Little White bit into a carrot, casting a pitiful gaze at Wang Hao. Wang Hao rolled his eyes. What was this rabbit doing being all cute now? With such an appetite, This wasn't the look of someone waiting for death. We can't just sit here and wait for death, or we really will be smashed to pieces. Wang Hao waved his hand, storing the light dragon spaceship in the system backpack. In a blink, he and the rabbit appeared in mid-air, plummeting rapidly. Ah! Wang Hao, save me quickly! Little White, clutching a carrot, screamed tragically from the sky, yet his mouth didn't stop for a moment, continuing to munch on the carrot. Wang Hao, with a head full of black lines, admitted defeat to this gluttonous rabbit. He lunged forward, grabbed Little White, pulled out a parachute, and opened it, slowly descending toward the ground. However, just as Wang Hao was about to land, he saw a youthful girl in a sailor outfit, charging towards him on a floating skateboard. Ah, get out of the way! The girl screamed, the next second crashing right into Wang Hao's arms. Wow, the services on this planet are too good, aren't they? A girl delivered right as I arrived. Wang Hao looked at the girl in his arms. Her black hair was smooth as satin, with slender phoenix brows, eyes bright as stars in the moon, snow-white skin, and a slender figure exuding youthfulness from head to toe. Big pervert! The girl screamed and pushed Wang Hao away, retreating several steps. Wang Hao rolled his eyes. Little miss, you're the one who threw yourself into my arms. I didn't take advantage of you. The girl's face blushed. She hadn't expected anyone to be there as she was listening to music and skateboarding, and then Wang Hao happened to fall from the sky, landing her in his arms. Let me check where we are. Ignoring the girl, Wang Hao checked his smart bracelet, but like the spaceship's main brain earlier, it wasn't responding at all. He guessed that the electromagnetic waves produced from the fragmentation of the ancient ruins might have damaged these electronic devices. You're not from this planet? The girl curiously asked. Wang Hao nodded. My spaceship broke down, so I had to make an emergency landing on this planet. Oh. The girl nodded, then picked up her skateboard, ready to leave. Wait a minute. Wang Hao stopped the girl, asking, can you tell me where the nearest city is from here? The girl tilted her head and thought, I don't know, as I left the city 5 days ago, so I don't know where this is. Can't you check? Wang Hao rolled his eyes. How did he end up with such a clueless girl? The girl lifted her slim arm. I've never used a smart bracelet. Curiously, Wang Hao glanced at the girl's wrist, indeed finding no smart bracelet. Damn, who is this girl anyway? Wang Hao looked astonished. Nowadays, smart bracelets are as common as phones, yet this girl doesn't have one. It's like seeing an alien. When Wang Hao looked around, he realized he was standing in a vast grassland with absolutely no one in sight, meaning he was likely in the middle of nowhere. I think we're in trouble, Wang Hao rubbed his temples. What's the trouble? Little White, clutching a carrot, asked with a puzzled face. Wang Hao sighed, the spaceship is broken, which means we can't leave. The bracelet is broken too, meaning we have no money to use. We might end up sleeping on the streets and we also can't contact anyone to pick us up. Ah, the girl suddenly screamed, her eyes twinkling with heart shapes, infatuated as she gazed at Little White on Wang Hao's shoulder. Wang Hao rolled his eyes. Another girl bewitched by Little White. Sleep on the streets? I don't want to sleep on the streets. Little White put down the carrot and looked pitifully at Wang Hao, indicating that it wanted to sleep in a soft, fluffy bed. Giving Little White a side glance, Wang Hao said, if that's the case, then we'll have to make some money. How do we make money? Little White asked repeatedly. Wang Hao thought for a moment. 1. Waylaying. 2. Looting amidst chaos. 3. Burglary. 4. Partnering in crime. 5. Telecommunication fraud. 6. Extortion by feigning injury. 7. Pretending to be beggars and asking for money. Little White curiously asked, which one shall we choose? Wang Hao turned to look at the girl. In this remote place where there's no village in front and no shop behind, other than this girl, there was no other choice. Little White jumped down from Wang Hao's shoulder, wielded the Gatling, and with a carrot in its mouth, stood in front of the girl. Stop daydreaming, hand over all the money you have or don't blame this precious bunny for shooting. Wow, she's just too cute. The girl totally lacked any awareness of being robbed. She teleported in front of Little White immediately and hugged Little White tightly. Wang Hao's pupils shrank suddenly. Fast. She was incredibly fast. Her cultivation was utterly inscrutable, her speed many times faster than his. If he fought her, even if he used the energy shield immediately, he would still be outclassed by her. How can this be? A drop of sweat fell from Wang Hao's forehead, his heart deeply unsettled. He was supposed to have the system, a cheat providing him significantly higher power than his peers. But now, a girl not much older than him had a speed that surpassed his. It was something he simply couldn't accept. Could she be an ancient, powerful monster? But her behavior didn't resemble that of an old monster at all, she behaved more like a young girl in bloom. You're not human. Little White trembled in the girl's arms, clearly sensing that the aura emanating from her was not that of a human. Wang Hao's pupils shrank sharply. Not human? Could she be a high-level creature from another star system? You little rascal, how can you say sister isn't human? The girl tapped Little White's little head and giggled. Sister's name is Xiang, a super gourmet who specializes in tasting delicacies from everywhere. Wang Hao pursed his lips. Super gourmet, he guessed. She's probably just a foodie. Chapter 306. Tianma Star on a vast grassland. Wang Hao walked ahead while Xiang, pouting and holding Little White, followed behind. And Little White, with tears in its eyes, cried woefully. Little White, be good. Big sister will definitely give your carrot back to you, Xiang soothed, stroking Little White's rabbit head, then huffed at Wang Hao. Wang Hao, you're too stingy, not even willing to give Little White a carrot. Wang Hao was exasperated, he wondered whether Xiang was genuinely naive or just had too high an opinion of herself. The previous night, the carrots that Little White had stored in the dimension space had mysteriously been taken out by Xiang. Then, this girl became hooked on them and ended up devouring all the tens of thousands of carrots prepared for Little White in one night. But afterwards, she had the audacity to blame it all on him, claiming he hadn't prepared enough carrots for Little White. How was he supposed to argue with that? However, this confirmed for Wang Hao that Xiang definitely wasn't human, because no human could possibly have such a keen interest in Little White's carrots. Because the carrots Little White ate were exchanged from the system, belonging to a category of pet feed that not only enabled demon beasts to grow quickly but also enhanced their intelligence. And humans would be repulsed after just 2, it was inconceivable for them to eat 10,000, let alone have the stomach to hold so many carrots. I'm telling you, Xiang, stop following me, Wang Hao said helplessly, trying to persuade her earnestly. I'm currently being hunted, and by following me, you'll be in danger. Oh, you're being hunted too. Xiang's eyes lit up. Then, as fellow drifters of the ends of the earth, we should stick together even more. You're being hunted too. Wang Hao gazed at Xiang dumbfounded. He suspected the reason she was being chased was likely because she ate without paying, then got chased by the proprietors. After all, this girl's appetite was anything but small. At this moment, Little White jumped from Xiang's arms onto Wang Hao's shoulder, giving him a pitiful look. Fine, you win. Wang Hao shook his head and handed a carrot to Little White. Little White took the carrot and stuffed it into its mouth quickly, foregoing its previous slow and deliberate chewing. It wolfed down the carrot, turning its back to Xiang as if fearing this foodie would snatch its carrot again. Xiang bit her finger, her mouth corners gleaming with teary shimmer, giving Wang Hao a similarly pitiful look. She had a talent, the ability to take things out of other people's dimension spaces. But what puzzled her was that no matter how she sensed it, she just couldn't detect Wang Hao's dimension space, which meant she could only follow behind him asking for carrots instead of simply taking them herself. Wang Hao looked at Xiang in her pitiable state, thinking to himself that he couldn't see through this girl's cultivation. However, judging by the speed she had shown, it must be extraordinary. And she seemed so dazed and confused. If he could deceive her into coming back with him, he would have himself a top-level bodyguard. Of course, what was most important was that his, government official career had already started, and in the future, if he encountered those righteous warriors who aimed to assassinate corrupt officials, he wasn't afraid of a direct confrontation. But a surprise attack from behind would be nearly impossible to guard against. But if he had a foodie bodyguard by his side, he was sure he wouldn't be the first to die. Thinking this, Wang Hao cleared his throat. Xiang, I can give you 100 carrots every day, and prepare all kinds of authentic tasty food for you, but you'll need to ensure my safety. How about it? Xiang's face twisted with conflict, then she stretched out 5 little fingers. Xiang needs 500 carrots every day. 500 carrots? Wang Hao rolled his eyes in disbelief. Who eats carrots like that? Then 400, can't be any less. Xiang retracted one finger, looking pitifully. All right, 400 carrots it is, Wang Hao nodded in agreement. As soon as he spoke, Little White looked at Wang Hao with a pitiful face, as if to say, "You don't love your precious bunny anymore, actually attracting this glutton to our side, won't this make it impossible for your precious bunny to save any carrots?" Xiang grabbed Little White and hugged it in her arms, consoling, "Don't worry, Little White. Carrot Sister will give them back to you, one a day, it's just 10,000 days." Little White fainted on the spot from dismay. Just 10,000 days, does it think bunnies can't do math? That's 27 years of waiting. As they spoke, Wang Hao saw a city appear before them, crowded with people, clearly a large city. "Yay, finally a city. Let's hurry up and go eat." Xiang's spirits lifted instantly, and she took out a hoverboard, dragging Wang Hao toward the city in a rush. Wang Hao let out a helpless sigh. This girl was truly a glutton, her mind filled only with thoughts of eating. When they entered the city, Xiang politely asked around, looking for the legendary food street that every city was said to have. "Remember, only eat until you are 80% full, definitely not full, or it will be very uncomfortable to run away later," Xiang instructed in a low voice. Wang Hao's face was covered with black lines. Good lord, he had guessed it, this girl was indeed being chased for dining and dashing. And she even developed a set of techniques from it, this couldn't have been her first time. "Xiang, how many dine and dashes have you done exactly?" Wang Hao couldn't help but ask curiously. Xiang thought for a moment, then shook her head, "I don't know, but many divine chefs in the gourmet world pooled their money, and went to the Adventurers Guild to issue a bounty, saying they want to take out this glutton me. I guess there must have been quite a few times." Wang Hao stared dumbfounded at Xiang, dining and dashing to the point of becoming wanted. She was definitely a super glutton, and a top-level one that no one could replicate. "Alright, stop daydreaming, let's hurry up and go eat." Xiang pulled Wang Hao excitedly towards a barbecue restaurant. "Wait a minute." Wang Hao suddenly grabbed Xiang and turned to look at a man and a woman sneaking into an alley not far away. Xiang tilted her head curiously and asked, "Do you know them?" Wang Hao nodded. He knew the man, and he was an old friend of his, Xi Rongxian from the DY terrorist organization. As for the woman, he didn't know her, had never even seen her, but her flashy get-up made it clear that she was a gold digger through and through. What is that guy doing here? Could he be lonely? So he's found some gold digger to play with. Wang Hao shook his head, it didn't seem right, knowing Xi Rongxian as he did, he was too shrewd to bother with such women. Whatever, we'll find out if we listen in. With that thought, Wang Hao slowly approached with Xiang, intending to eavesdrop on what the two were saying. Chapter 307. As Wang Hao approached, he heard Xi Rongxian lower his voice, "I don't care how you do it, but you must get me the Don as soon as possible. Boss, I've really tried my best, but he just won't take me home. That's your problem. Remember, if you want money, you have to find out everything for me. The most up-to-date novels are published on Fruitnoelo. Boss, actually, I don't care about the money, I just want to be with you. Get lost, I'm not interested in your kind of woman, hurry up and go investigate." After a few sentences, Xi Rongxian sneaked out. Don. Wang Hao frowned and thought, then his pupils suddenly dilated, if he remembered correctly, the Don should be one of the 10 level 6 alloy weapons of the Interstellar Federation, the Don automatic gun. Even Xi Rongxian dares to covet this weapon, it seems like getting it isn't too difficult. Wang Hao's eyes shifted, clearly interested in the Don. Xiang tilted her little head, curiously asking, "Wang Hao, does the Don taste good?" Cough cough. Wang Hao was immediately choked, he was now thoroughly convinced of this foodie, who seemed to only think about eating and likely had room for nothing else in her mind. In the midst of their conversation, the money-grubbing woman also walked out of the alley. Seeing this, Wang Hao quickly took Xiang and followed, wishing to see who exactly this woman was getting close to. "Wang Hao, what are you doing? I still need to go eat." Xiang looked at the street snacks, continuously swallowing saliva. "Let's take care of business first, I'll let you eat enough afterward, and you don't have to worry about being chased." Wang Hao quickened his pace after speaking. Xiang swallowed her saliva and shifted her gaze with 12 points of willpower, then obediently let Wang Hao lead her away. Emperor Star, the President's mansion. Representatives of the various major powers were gathered together for a meeting. And the decisions of the major powers were unusually unanimous, that was, to denounce Wang Hao for his reckless use of the Dongfeng missile. However, the attitudes of both the Potion Guild and Skyfire Company were also very tough, stating that anyone who dared to touch Wang Hao would become their enemy. Humph, if anyone touches Wang Hao, our entire Potion Guild will take a vacation and go traveling, Bing Qiao huffed coldly. Chu Lei nodded, our decision at Skyfire Company is that if anyone dares to touch Wang Hao, we will immediately increase the price of our weapons by 10 times. Hearing this, the president rubbed his forehead, feeling like his head was about to explode. Skyfire Company had been wanting to raise prices for a long time, but they'd been suppressed by the major powers, which is why they hadn't succeeded. If they succeeded in raising prices because of this Wang Hao incident, it would be harder than reaching the heavens to get them to lower prices again. And the Potion Guild was even more extreme, proposing to go on a holiday altogether, which left him truly at a loss. It had to be known that the Potion Guild had plenty of money, they could easily live an easy and carefree life, traveling all over even if they shut down for 3 years. However, the Interstellar Federation couldn't go a single day without these potions. If there were no potions, then the cultivation of the common people wouldn't improve, and if cultivation didn't improve, it meant that the overall combat power of the Interstellar Federation was declining. And how could the president tolerate that? Humph, Wang Hao recklessly used the Dongfeng missile, which is a serious overstep. If we don't punish him severely, then anyone will think they can use the Dongfeng missile within the Federation. Guan Xingxiang snorted coldly, utterly dismissing the stand of the Potion Guild and Skyfire Company. Chu Lei spoke indifferently, I don't think it is an overstep at all. The DY terrorist organization was trying to capture Wang Hao, so should he have just allowed himself to be captured? According to my understanding, Wang Hao has a space gem, which would have allowed him to avoid the situation entirely, but he chose to resolve it with violence, retorted Guan Xingxiang. Who decided that having a space gem means you must use space jumping? Bing Qiao sneered contemptuously. A chill flashed in Guan Xingxiang's eyes, if Wang Hao always resolves problems with violence, then next time I too will resolve problems with violence, and then you'd better not blame me. If you dare use violence against Wang Hao, our Skyfire Company dares to stop all trades with the military department, Chu Lei said with a cold laugh. Chu Lei, have you gone senile? You're actually siding with Wang Hao against me, Guan Xingxiang's face instantly darkened. I went senile, all thanks to your military department. Chu Lei's eyes sparkled with a chill, having pondered during his captivity why the Yaotian Federation hadn't attacked sooner or later, but just when he arrived, they did. Moreover, the attack was quite targeted, as if they were coming straight for him, and he would never believe it didn't involve forewarning. The most crucial point was, if Skyfire Company was forced to change ownership, then the largest beneficiary would definitely be the military department. Because if the military department acquired Skyfire Company, then they could produce weapons for themselves, saving a ton of money on military purchases each year, and that gave him no choice but to be suspicious. We from the Potion Guild will also stop trading with the military department, said Bing Qiao lightly. You, Guan Xingxiang turned green with anger, clearly frustrated by being strong-armed. Cough cough, the president coughed, regarding Wang Hao using the Dongfeng missile, I think there were reasons behind it, and he can be forgiven. At the same time, let's warn the Seven Devils to not be too arrogant, or we'll swiftly eliminate their DY terrorist organization. Upon hearing the president speak, all representatives of various powers present fell silent. The president tapped on the table and said softly, the matter of Wang Hao using the Dongfeng missile is in the past, but the treasure that Wang Hao obtained from the palace is clearly not settled yet. Chu Lei frowned, what does the president mean by that? The president chuckled, I think that as long as Wang Hao has not returned to his Earth plate, then this game is not over, so there's still a chance for all the young ones, in the end, whoever seizes it will own it. So much pointless talk, you just want to see if Wang Hao has the inheritance crystal, don't you? Bing Qiao huffed. The president didn't hide it, nodding openly, the cornerstone of the president's mansion's existence is the inheritance crystal, but we won't bully the weak. This is a matter for the younger generation, so let them settle it amongst themselves. Guan Xingxiang laughed coldly, since that's the case, let's see who ends up with it in the end. Bing Qiao frowned and retorted, issues amongst the younger generation should be settled by themselves, but there's no need for people with martial king cultivation to get involved, that would be bullying. The representatives of the various major powers looked at each other and all nodded in agreement. Although Wang Hao had strong personal combat ability, if they sent tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of warriors from martial arts sects, even with multiple arms and legs, Wang Hao would have no way to escape. So having or not having martial kings really didn't matter. Chapter 308. Tianma Star. A scenic seaside where a luxurious cruise ship lay anchored. On the cruise ship was a group of sexy, hot-bodied bikini-clad women, who were all gathered around a young boy. Not far from the shore, Wang Hao was watching this scene from a distance. Beside him, Xiang had a face full of grievance. She could have been enjoying a lavish meal without paying, yet she ended up at the seaside following that gold-digging woman. And the most painful part was that she had to stand on the beach, facing the cold northwest wind, while others sat on the luxurious cruise ship, feasting and drinking red wine. Wang Hao, let's not watch any more, shall we go eat? Xiang looked pitifully at Wang Hao, indicating she was really hungry. Wang Hao rolled his eyes and handed Xiang a basket of carrots, hoping this foodie would shut up. Seeing the carrots, Little White quickly hopped into the basket, grabbed a carrot, and began gnawing wildly as if it was an African refugee who hadn't eaten in 3 days. Xiang was not courteous either, grabbing a carrot in each hand and stuffing them into her mouth, and then, without seeming to chew, she managed to annihilate a carrot in 1 second. Just as Little White was about to bite into a third carrot, it suddenly felt the gaze of resentment. Looking up, it saw Xiang biting her finger, staring at the carrot in its hands, and continuously swallowing her saliva. Witnessing this scene, Little White's heart collapsed. Who could have imagined that just 2 days ago, it was the lord of a large hill of carrots? But now, it had become a down-and-out bunny who couldn't even get a full meal. Wasn't this disparity too cruel for a 2.5-year-old rabbit to bear? However, there was no choice. After all, it was afraid of Xiang. Here you go. With eyes closed in agony, Little White handed over the carrot to Xiang. Little White, you're such a good bunny, big sister likes you the most. Xiang petted his head in delight and unceremoniously took the last carrot. But this time, Xiang didn't wolf it down, instead, she savored it with a blissful expression. Wang Hao's pupils suddenly constricted as he saw an unknown energy transferred into Little White's body when Xiang petted the bunny's head, causing Little White to break through instantaneously. What on earth is Xiang's background? Wang Hao was incredibly amazed, feeling a very strong premonition that Xiang's origins were terrifying. At the same time, Wang Hao pondered why Xiang liked eating carrots so much, pet food of all things. Could she be a demon beast? But are there demon beasts in a human form? One must know that within the Interstellar Federation, the highest grade among demon beasts is the so-called divine beast. But even divine beasts can only talk, they can't transform into a human form. But if not a divine beast, then what species was Xiang? Forget it, I won't think about these things anymore. Wang Hao shook his head. Because no matter Xiang's background, no matter her species, he just needed to understand that with this silly little foodie by his side, not only was his safety guaranteed, he could also become more lawless, accumulating even more sin points. Ouch! Just then, an old man suddenly fell down in front of Wang Hao and his group, letting out a pitiful cry. Penkai? The two characters flashed across Wang Hao's mind. Old man, are you okay? Xiang kindly wanted to go forward and help the old man. Hold on. Wang Hao grabbed Xiang and smirked, Old man, your scam is so lacking in skill. There are cameras everywhere here, you simply can't swindle me. The old man's mouth curled up, Young man, all the cameras along this road have been disabled by me. You might as well hand over the money. Otherwise, when the police arrive, you'll have to pay whether you want to or not. Disabled? Wang Hao was startled. The old man nodded proudly, Young man, you're the 100th person I've bumped into here, so I'll give you a half-price discount. Before he could finish, Wang Hao rolled up his sleeves, stepped forward, and punched the old man's face. Hey, young man, why are you hitting me? The old man was instantly baffled, this wasn't how the script was supposed to go. Humph, trying to scam me? You didn't even inquire who I am and where I'm from. Wang Hao didn't hold back, using fists and feet to leave the old man battered and bruised. And he unceremoniously took all the cash, smart wristbands and anything valuable from the old man. After Wang Hao left, the old man suddenly sat up, scratched his chin, and muttered, If I didn't sense it wrong just now, this kid seems to have grasped the unity of heaven and man. But this kid is only 17 or 18, could he be the Wang Hao that's been in the news recently? Haha, who cares who this kid is? The old man burst into laughter, having wandered the mortal world for so long, resorting to extortion, scamming, and flirting, I've never encountered a match. Meeting such an interesting little fellow today, I must properly exchange notes with him and see who's the scummiest. Add latest chapters at free.novelo only. The next second, while the laughter continued, the old man had disappeared from the spot, his whereabouts unknown. At this time, Wang Hao, using the smart wristband he got from the old man, sent a message to Jian Wanyang to come pick him up. At the same time, Wang Hao also learned from Jian Wanyang that various powers were letting their younger generations continue to vie for the inheritance crystal. Wang Hao smirked, without the martial king, no one can do anything to me. But when Wang Hao turned his head, he saw Xiang, the glutton, had actually run to a seaside barbecue stall and was chomping down on skewers. What left Wang Hao dumbfounded was that in the short time he had been sending a few messages, Xiang had already devoured more than 50 skewers, and she was still urging the stall owner to cook faster. Meanwhile, that drooling look of anticipation finally made Wang Hao understand what a top-level glutton on the wanted list really was. Wang Hao, come over and eat with me, Xiang called out to Wang Hao cheerfully, waving her small hand, her vibrant youthfulness instantly attracting the attention of male beachgoers. When Wang Hao arrived at the barbecue stall, Xiang hurriedly handed him a freshly grilled shrimp, then grabbed a giant grilled squid and began devouring it. I don't understand the world of foodies. Wang Hao shook his head, then asked the barbecue stall owner, Boss, do you know who that young man on the cruise ship is? The owner laughed, Sir, you're clearly not from Tianmistar. How did you deduce that? Wang Hao asked. The owner chuckled, the person you're talking about is a famous playboy from Tianmistar, the young master of Sky Sword Villa, Gu Yang. He's always on the gossip magazines, changes girlfriends more often than he changes clothes, and it's said that if any female celebrity makes it onto the cover of Tianmistar's Fashion Week magazine, then he's definitely slept with her. That impressive. Wang Hao admitted that in that moment, he felt somewhat envious, even though those female stars weren't exactly decent people, nor were they as beautiful as the women by his side, but he was still jealous. Chapter 309. Right, this Gu Yang comes from Sky Sword Villa. Wang Hao scratched his chin and opened his smart bracelet to start searching. In a short while, he found all the information about Sky Sword Villa. According to the documents, the owner of Sky Sword Villa had the last name Gu, and their family had been forging swords for generations. Although they couldn't produce swords made of level 6 alloy, all the level 5 alloy swords in the Interstellar Federation came from this villa. And this Gu Yang was the young master of Sky Sword Villa, a notorious playboy, living a life of wine in his hand and beauties in his arms every day. However, Gu Yang's older brother, Gu Yat, was a super genius. His sword skills at such a young age had reached a divine level of mastery, hailed as a leading figure in the future Sword Dao of the Interstellar Federation. Just then, Gu Yang, who was sitting on the cruise ship's plank, suddenly spotted Xiang eating barbecue, her youthful aura hitting him full in the face, especially that sweet smile, which seemed as if it could heal the soul. My God, I feel like I've been struck by lightning, Gu Yang's eyes suddenly lit up. Young Master Yang, are you all right? The bikini-clad women around him looked at Gu Yang with concern. That's it for today. I have prepared a little gift for everyone, please head back now. Gu Yang waved his hand and then turned and quickly ran toward the barbecue stand where Xiang was. Seeing this, the bikini-clad beauties let out sounds of contempt. Another one pretending to be innocent, such a green tea bitch. Exactly, every day on this beach, there's this kind of woman. But why does young Master Yang have such a strong reaction today? Who knows, maybe he wants to try something new. Girls, let's go see what kind of woman can make young Master Yang lose his soul. Not bad, we should go and see, if we learn it, young Master Yang will favor us more. Vixen, young Master Yang is mine. When Gu Yang arrived at the barbecue stand, Wang Hao looked surprised. He hadn't even made a move yet, and here this guy was, delivering himself to him? Miss, may I be friends with you? Gu Yang asked politely. Xiang held a crab leg in her mouth, looking dumbly at Gu Yang, then unclearly said, Scram. Pfft. Wang Hao couldn't help but burst out laughing. Although Xiang was a foodie and seemed a bit silly, she was still able to distinguish a wolf with bad intentions. Gu Yang smiled but looked very embarrassed, as this was the first time he had encountered a girl who didn't give him face. At this moment, that group of bikini beauties all walked over from the cruise ship. My, whose little sister is this, to be so aloof? Our young Master Yang liking you is your good fortune. Could this little girl have taken a liking to this poor boy? Poor boy? Are you blind? This young man is wearing all designer brands. Designer is designer, but his clothes are either covered in mud or grass stains, he doesn't look rich at all. Maybe these clothes were picked up. I think so, our young Master Yang never wears the same clothes twice. I understand now, he must have picked up some rich person's clothes. Or maybe he picked up young Master Yang's clothes. Giggle. Wang Hao looked frustrated. Who had he offended? These women were jealous and should go bother Xiang, why did they have to involve him? Besides, just because his clothes got a bit of dirt and grass stains while crossing the prairie, why did that make him a poor boy? These women's imagination was really too rich. Shut up! Gu Yang snorted coldly. Hearing this, the bikini-clad women bowed their heads like quails, scared to speak any further. It's my fault for not disciplining these women properly. Gu Yang is here to apologize on their behalf. Gu Yang gave Wang Hao an apologetic look. Although he was a playboy, his judgment and brain were still sharp. Most of the business of Sky Sword Villa was pulled in by him, so his abilities were naturally not lacking. From Wang Hao's attitude and the designer clothes he wore, it was clear this person was not to be trifled with. At the same time, Gu Yang also frowned and stared at Little White on Wang Hao's shoulder. Wang Hao noticed Gu Yang's gaze and couldn't help but laugh. You're quite sharp, you must have guessed my identity, right? Gu Yang's pupils dilated sharply, and a bead of sweat appeared on his forehead. Upon seeing the rabbit on Wang Hao's shoulder, he suddenly recalled someone frequently appearing in the news recently, a young, super genius who spanned 3 major powers, Wang Hao. Although there was no picture of this young marshal in the news of the rabbit by the young marshal's side was no secret. And an ordinary rabbit wouldn't have the spirit like Little White, so this made him suspicious. Now with Wang Hao's comment, he was certain this was the super genius who spanned 3 major powers. Please forgive my insolence, Marshal, Gu Yang quickly apologized. This wasn't because Sky Sword Villa feared Wang Hao, but because Wang Hao's reputation for seeking trouble had precedentially arrived. He did not want to end up with an image of a Dongfeng missile striking Sky Sword Villa over this small issue. Moreover, a simple apology wouldn't cost him anything, and it might even establish a connection with this promising young marshal. Why not? Marshal! The bikini beauties gasped and looked at Wang Hao again, nearly peeing themselves in fear. They had just mocked a marshal, this was like seeking death. Thinking this, the bikini beauties trembled, standing behind Gu Yang, not daring to even breathe. You've done quite well, Wang Hao said, somewhat surprised as he looked at Gu Yang. He had thought this would be an arrogant and brainless scion, but who knew he not only had keen observational skills but also strong interpersonal abilities. Recruiting him into the Legion as a diplomat could reduce some unnecessary troubles. Especially since, before his army of 1 million was completely under control, internal problems within the Legion would inevitably abound, given that those noble scions weren't pushovers either. Gu Yang's eyes suddenly brightened. What did Wang Hao's words imply? Was he considering recruiting him? He would agree in a heartbeat because he was already sick of his daily wasteful and dreamy life. He wanted to follow this legendary young man and leave his own name in this glorious chapter. Bzzz bzzz. Just then, the roaring sound of an engine broke the silence. Everyone turned to look, seeing a fashionably dressed old man getting off a luxurious version of a floating motorbike. But Wang Hao gave an odd look. This old man was someone he had just beaten up for scamming. Chapter 310. Tai Feng Sr. Gu Yang was so startled at the sight of the old man that he hurried forward to greet him. Kid, get out of the way, I'm not here for you today. The old man pushed Gu Yang aside and went straight up to Wang Hao. Xiang tugged at Wang Hao with her greasy little hand and mumbled unclearly, Wang Hao, this old guy is loaded, beat him up again and we'll have our dinner sorted for tonight. Upon hearing this, the old man staggered and nearly fell to the ground. He was here to spar with Wang Hao, not to hand out meal allowances. Gu Yang was so scared that he almost jumped. Wang Hao was too bold to dare to hit even this man. Young man, I am Jian Taifeng, here to spar with you today. Jian Taifeng eyed Wang Hao with a look full of admiration. A strong physique, having grasped unity of heaven and man, with an extremely solid foundation, an exceptional talent rarely seen in eternity. Taifeng Sr., this won't do, Gu Yang said anxiously, stepping forward to persuade. Marshal Wang Hao is only 18 years old, even if he is a genius, how could he be a match for you? Jian Taifeng glanced at Gu Yang, did I say I wanted to fight? Gu Yang was taken aback, then asked curiously, then what will you be comparing? Who's cheaper? Jian Taifeng stroked his beard and chuckled triumphantly. Swordsmanship. Gu Yang was confused again. Wasn't that still a fight? Jian Taifeng slapped Gu Yang on the forehead and huffed, I mean who's more shameless, who has less dignity. Pfft. As soon as the words came out, everyone in the room burst out laughing. It was the first time they had heard of a competition like this. At the same time, everyone understood what a name signified. Jian Taifeng, this was the madness of cheapness. Kid, do you dare to compete? Jian Taifeng gave Wang Hao a challenging look. Wang Hao sneered, no benefit, why would I compete with you? Jian Taifeng stroked his beard and laughed, if you win against me, then I've got your back from now on. Gu Yang quickly came over to Wang Hao and whispered, Marshal, Taifeng Sr. is one of the few remaining old monsters in the Interstellar Federation, no one knows how high his cultivation is. He came to Tianmistar just tired of the constant deception, seeking some peace and quiet. Wang Hao gave Gu Yang a look of disdain. Seeking peace on Tianmistar, to him, that just sounded like an old man with nothing better to do, wanting to play the rogue. But playing the rogue also required talent, and not everyone could pull it off. On the path of being cheap, I have never met my match. Wang Hao sneered disdainfully. Good, I like youngsters with personality. Jian Taifeng nodded with a hint of appreciation in his eyes and asked, let me ask you, if a beautiful girl and an ugly girl fell into the water, if you save the beauty, she would marry you, but if you save the ugly one, she would give you 100 billion interstellar coins, who would you choose to save? Wang Hao sneered, money doesn't matter to me, the key is I just like the ugly ones. Pfft. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone in the crowd burst into laughter again. The taste of his cheekiness was indeed strong. Jian Taifeng's gaze grew serious as he realized that this boy wasn't just a little cheap, he had a style and personality of splashing around. Wang Hao suddenly said, Old man, would you mind running 2 laps around here? Run 2 laps? Jian Taifeng looked confused but without giving it much thought, he jogged 2 laps around. Gu Yang asked curiously, Young Marshal, what does this mean? Wang Hao said with a slight smile, I haven't eaten pork before, but I want to see how a pig runs. Cough, cough. Gu Yang choked, this young marshal was bold indeed, even daring to tease Jian Taifeng. Stinky brat, are you playing me? Jian Taifeng was furious. He had lived a whole lifetime, and today someone actually treated him as a pig. How could he not be angry? Not even knowing a bit of trickery and you want to compete with me in pettiness, you're not qualified, Wang Hao said with a curl of his lip, before asking, I have 9 knives, and I lose 1, how many do I have left? Jian Taifeng paused, then tentatively answered, 8. Ah, such a good boy. A smile appeared on Wang Hao's face. 8, Daddy. Jian Taifeng realized what had happened and was furious, almost jumping with rage. Those present were impressed, Wang Hao was indeed exceptionally shameless. Jian Taifeng was no match for him at all, he was completely outplayed at every turn. Gu Yang quickly stepped forward to mediate, Senior Jian Taifeng, my brother mentioned he's having trouble with a swordsmanship technique, perhaps you could give him some pointers. Humph, this is a serious matter, why did you only tell me now? Jian Taifeng grunted indignantly. If it delayed Gu Yi's cultivation, you would have me to answer to. Gu Yang apologized again and again, Senior Taifeng, please forgive me, it was all Gu Yang's oversight. Jian Taifeng flung his sleeves, snorted coldly, and quickly mounted his floating motorbike, then dashed off without looking back. He didn't want to see Wang Hao a moment longer, the boy not only played tricks on him but was also not at all adorable. If it weren't for the large gap in their generational standing, he would have definitely smacked this brat to death. However, when he left, Jian Taifeng threw a small token to Wang Hao, upon which a forceful character for sword was inscribed. What does this old man mean by this? Wang Hao examined the small token in his hand. Gu Yang stepped forward with congratulations, Marshal, on receiving Senior Taifeng's sword token. From now on, you'll have his protection, and within the Interstellar Federation, no one will dare touch a hair on your head. So, does this mean the old man has admitted defeat? Wang Hao's mouth twitched as he pocketed the sword token. This was one of the few remaining old monsters of the Interstellar Federation. With his protection, the future was his oyster. Wang Hao patted Gu Yang's shoulder, are you interested in serving as a general in my army? A general? Gu Yang suddenly felt happiness had come too suddenly, He hadn't expected Wang Hao to value him so highly. Wang Hao said with a smile, "If you want to be my general, I'll need you to exchange something for it." Gu Yang felt as if he had been doused in cold water. He should have known that there's no such thing as a free lunch from the sky. "What is it that Marshal wants?" Gu Yang asked curiously. Wang Hao spoke softly, "I want the Dawn automatic gun." Gu Yang's eyes lit up in realization, then, curious, he asked, "How did the Marshal come to learn of this?" Wang Hao glanced at the bikini-clad beauties and said indifferently, "Among these people, someone's been bought by the DY terrorist organization, and I just happened to see them, so I overheard." "So it's the DY terrorist organization?" Gu Yang nodded, then sighed, "I'm sorry, Marshal, I can't give you the Dawn. It doesn't belong to us at Sky Sword Villa, we're just safeguarding it for someone else." "Who?" Wang Hao's brows furrowed, pressing for an answer. Gu Yang said softly, "It's the same senior Jian Taifeng we just mentioned." Wang Hao was taken aback. No wonder Gu Yang wasn't at all surprised when he heard the mention of the Dawn. It belonged to that old monster, Jian Taifeng. Only, had Xi Rongxian lost his mind, or did someone give him the audacity to try and steal the Dawn from the hands of such a high-level old monster? Chapter 311. Tianma Star, Sky Sword Villa. This was an ancient, scenic estate constructed against the backdrop of a mountain. As Wang Hao drew near, he felt an overwhelming sword chi surging towards the heavens. Gu Yang proudly introduced, "Marshal, our Gu family has been forging and practicing swordsmanship here for generations, which is why this towering sword chi has formed unconsciously." Wang Hao nodded. He had read that while Sky Sword Villa may not compare to the top 5 forces of the Interstellar Federation, its profound heritage alone could rank it as a first-class power. Just then, a middle-aged man who bore a striking resemblance to Gu Yang, walked out of the villa with a hearty laugh. "Haha, Marshal, your esteemed visit honors us, I regret not having greeted you from farther away." Gu Yang hurriedly introduced, "Marshal, this is my father, Gu Jian, and also the best swordsmith in the Interstellar Federation." "The best swordsmith? I dare not claim such the title, there are many stronger than me," Gu Jian replied humbly. "Stop the chatter, let's hurry up and eat." Xiang stared at Gu Jian with eager eyes, swallowing continuously. "Haha, all right, let's eat first." Gu Jian laughed heartily, as he took a liking to this unpretentious young girl. Suddenly, a cold snort came from the sky. "Wang Hao, you cannot escape. Hand over the treasure you found in the relics immediately." Wang Hao turned to look and saw President's son Liao Yunchuan flying rapidly towards them with several hundred people. Gu Jian's eyebrows knitted together as he sensed the situation becoming tricky. Wang Hao was their guest, and it was his duty to protect him. But the newcomer was the son of the president. How should he handle saving face? While Gu Jian was in a quandary, Gu Yang stepped forward and bowed to Liao Yunchuan. "It turns out Mr. Liao has graced us with his presence. We haven't greeted you from afar, so please do enter the villa quickly. We at Sky Sword Villa would be honored to extend our warm hospitality to you all." Gu Jian nodded in relief. Though his younger son might not be as talented as his elder brother, he certainly had a way with people. Now that the pleasantries were exchanged, surely Liao Yunchuan wouldn't slap a smiling face. If it did come to blows, then even if they from Sky Sword Villa were to act, the president's residence wouldn't have grounds for objection. After all, their younger generation didn't demonstrate propriety. "Haha, what a lively place this is." At the sound, everyone turned to look and saw old man Jian, with a young man by his side, walking out from the villa. Wang Hao observed the young man beside Jian Taifeng, who emanated an aura sharp like a finely honed sword, exuding an impression of a bright future. If he wasn't mistaken, this person was Gu Yang's elder brother, the sword Dao genius Gu Yat, and the closely kept disciple of Jian Taifeng. As Wang Hao appraised Gu Yat, Gu Yat was also taking his measure. When their gazes crossed, it was as if 2 bolts of lightning collided in the void, with sword chi bursting forth around them instantly. Jian Taifeng patted Gu Yi's head and smiled, "Little Yat, restrain your sword chi. You can't be his match before you comprehend the unity of heaven and man." "Yes, master." Gu Ye nodded, and the sword chi around him suddenly dissipated. However, Gu Yi's gaze remained fixed on Wang Hao, filled with the urge to step forward and challenge him. "Are you Senior Jian?" Liao Yunchuan asked Jian Taifeng, probing. Jian Taifeng shook his head, looking bewildered. "Senior Jian? Who is that? I am just an ordinary old man." "An ordinary old man?" The faces of those present darkened. Did this old man think they were all blind? A simple sentence had deflated Gu Yi's temper. Was that something an ordinary old man could do? Then, at that moment, Jian Taifeng stumbled against Liao Yunchuan and fell to the ground, crying out pitifully, "Ouch, do these young fellows nowadays not watch where they are going? Can't they see an old man?" Everyone's eyelids twitched. This act of scamming was seriously lacking in standards, wasn't it? Liao Yunchuan took a deep breath and respectfully said, "Senior, I don't have any valuables on me." "Who wants your valuables?" Jian Taifeng interrupted, "Hurry up and pay up, and if you don't pay, don't even think about leaving today. I'll have you know, I have connections with the Tianma Star Police Department." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. Could this senior have any shame? He was outright bullying the younger generation. Gu Jian massaged his temples, thinking to himself that perhaps this was the mindset of a strong individual who, invincibly lonely, had seen through the fame and fortune of the world and was just playing with the mortals. But to swindle money from the younger generation so shamelessly, was that really something a noble and learned senior should do? Wang Hao sneered, "Geez, old man Jian, with this level of skill, you're really bringing shame to the swindlers' community." Jian Taifeng looked up at Wang Hao, unable to help himself from asking, "Then what would be considered not shameful?" Wang Hao said earnestly, "If it were me, I would say I'm fine and let him go." Knowing that he was in the wrong and encountering such generosity, he would naturally take off running. "But once he's gone, I would call the police and report him for hit and run. That way, not only do you get more compensation, but you can also do it without anyone being able to fault you." "Brilliant, brilliant, truly brilliant." Jian Taifeng looked at Wang Hao with admiration. Lately, with nothing to do, he had been exploring the depths of shamelessness. He thought he had been shameless enough to make a fortune through swindling, but after meeting Wang Hao, he realized that there were always higher mountains beyond his own and that one could always learn to be more despicable. "All these are trifles," Wang Hao said, waving his hand, "remember to give me half of the money you get from this swindle, as my consulting fee." Jian Taifeng nodded, then waved Liao Yunchuan off. "Boy, I'm fine, you can go." Pfft! The onlookers burst into laughter. This old man was too shameless. He didn't even have a bit of the dignity expected from a wise elder. Liao Yunchuan's face turned completely black. Dare he leave now? If he left, the police would grab him immediately for hit and run, and then by tomorrow, all the newspapers would carry the story. How could he ever show his face again? "Hey, Wang Hao, kid, what do I do if this guy refuses to leave?" Jian Taifeng yelled at Wang Hao. Wang Hao took out a camera. "Old man Jian, strike a pitiful pose for me to take a picture, and I'll publish it at my media company. I've already thought of the headline, 'President's son assaults lonely old man without cause. Is this the decay of morals or the distortion of humanity?' This is good." Jian Taifeng clapped his hands excitedly, grabbed Liao Yunchuan's foot and placed it on his chest, then made a face full of panic and fear. Seeing this scene, everyone present gave Liao Yunchuan a sympathetic look. Confronted with these two shameless individuals working together, it seemed Liao Yunchuan wouldn't be able to avert disaster without losing some money. Chapter 312. "Senior, how much money do you want? I'll give." Liao Yunchuan took a deep breath, calming his agitated heart. At the same time, he decided that if he ever encountered these old immortals again, he would stay as far away as possible. These old guys had enjoyed worldly riches and held the highest powers, and they had become invincibly lonely. They could even control the Interstellar Federation any minute if they wanted to. Thus, these old fellows had all returned to ordinary life, relishing in the world's hustle and bustle to avoid loneliness. But this old man Jian had gone a bit overboard in his return. He actually chose the path of a scoundrel. "The forest is big, and all sorts of birds are found. I think compensating with a courage battleship would do just fine," Wang Hao said nonchalantly. Courage battleship? Everyone present gasped. A farce that was ending in compensating with a courage battleship. Was this not a joke? Jian Taifeng immediately started protesting. "Wang Hao, you scoundrel, I want money, not the courage. What would I do with that thing? There's even no place to put it." Wang Hao innocently shrugged his shoulders. "Sorry, my consultancy fee is very expensive. Coming up with one idea costs half of the compensation, and since I've given you 2 ideas, the compensation for this scam should go to me." Cough, cough. As soon as the words were out, everyone choked. This guy was too shameless. Old man Jian was just bored and playing with juniors, yet Wang Hao was scheming and pushing his teammates into a pit, all while shamelessly demanding everything afterward. No more playing, got fooled again, Jian Taifeng grumbled as he got up from the ground and walked towards the Sky Sword Villa. Hey, old man Jian, you have to accept when you're tricked. What about this compensation? Wang Hao stopped Jian Taifeng. Just take it all, are you happy now? Jian Taifeng glared at Wang Hao, realizing that ever since meeting Wang Hao, nothing had gone right for him, and his good mood had evaporated. Although he really wanted to teach the youngster a lesson through force to vent his anger, it was too embarrassing to bully the weak. Senior, are we really compensating with a courage battleship? Liao Yunchuan's face fell. He hadn't yet managed to steal the treasures from Wang Hao, and he was already being extorted for a courage battleship. If his dad found out, he'd be dead. Jian Taifeng waved his hand dismissively, that little toy isn't worth much. Just compensate him with one courage battleship for the young Wang Hao. Pfft. The moment the words were out, Liao Yunchuan burst out laughing, feeling as if this was not your own stuff. Compensating just like that, have you considered their feelings at all? Everyone present sympathized with Liao Yunchuan. For a master like Jian Taifeng, their combat power had transcended the realms of high-tech weaponry. No weapon in the Interstellar Federation could threaten them. Thus, the courage battleship, only capable of combating the martial emperor, was just a toy in their eyes. When Jian Taifeng heard about the courage battleship, he hardly cared. Perhaps in their eyes, a Yuan and the courage battleship weren't much different. But it was this indifference that had allowed Wang Hao to snag a courage battleship for free. As for whether Liao Yunchuan would give it, they believed that he didn't have the guts to ignore Jian Taifeng's decision. You've given me such a big gift just upon arriving, what a good person. Wang Hao patted Liao Yunchuan's shoulder and then, holding Xiangxiang's hand, headed towards the Sky Sword Villa. Liao Yunchuan's face turned cold. This damned Wang Hao, just as the legends say, sees an opportunity and immediately resorts to extortion. Mr. Liao, what do we do now? Asked a follower who had come with Liao Yunchuan. Liao Yunchuan took a deep breath. It's definitely not okay to start trouble at Sky Sword Villa. We'll wait, I refuse to believe Wang Hao can hide in there forever. His followers nodded in agreement. Whether it was Jian Taifeng at Sky Sword Villa or the influence of Sky Sword Villa itself, it wasn't a place they could afford to stir up trouble. Wang Hao, it's not yet certain who will have the last laugh. Liao Yunchuan scoffed coldly and then entered Sky Sword Villa alone. Meanwhile, on a small hill thousands of miles away, Xi Rongxian lay on the ground, using high-powered binoculars to watch the scene unfold. It's Wang Hao again. Is this guy my nemesis? Why do I run into him everywhere? And who is that old man? Why does everyone seem so afraid of him? Xi Rongxian's brows furrowed, then he sent the news to the 7 demons. Inside Sky Sword Villa, Gu Jian had prepared a lavish long table feast to welcome the arrival of Wang Hao and Liao Yunchuan. But at the long table, no one reached for their chopsticks, all eyes were on the little girl Xiang. The speed at which she chewed, mouthful after mouthful, was simply terrifying. It couldn't possibly be human. Haha, now that's a good child, not picky at all. Jian Taifeng laughed heartily, pushing all the delicious dishes in front of Xiang. He felt an inexplicable fondness for this unpretentious little girl, especially Xiang's naturally sweet smile, which made everyone feel delighted. Thank you, Grandpa. Xiang said sweetly with a smile, then continued to bury her head and eat heavily. Liao Yunchuan's brow furrowed. Could this be the tyrant glutton who is wanted by all the divine chefs? Tyrant glutton. Wang Hao stared dumbfounded at Xiang. Was such a fierce title really meant for Xiang? Gu Yang pondered. According to the divine chefs, she's a teenage girl who possesses a gluttonous stomach. Whenever she appears, she can bankrupt a 5-star restaurant, and she doesn't even pay afterward, effectively dining and dashing. Hence, she earned the title Tyrant Glutton. Liao Yunchuan nodded. Although the restaurants eventually banned this tyrant glutton, she would take advantage of the night to sneak in and eat. This way she single-handedly bankrupted over 300 5-star restaurants, forcing many of them, for their own interests, to pool money and post missions at the Adventurers Guild, hoping to eliminate this tyrant glutton. Over 300. Wang Hao suddenly choked, realizing the 17 or 18 chefs he had prepared for Xiang might not be enough. Yet Xiang, seemingly oblivious to the conversation about her, continued to eat heartily and happily. Just then, a servant hurried to Gu Jian and whispered anxiously, "Master, it's terrible. Many powerful scions and ladies from outside have arrived, specifically asking to meet with Marshal. Liao Yunchuan elegantly sipped some red wine. Wang Hao, I advise you to obediently hand over the treasure, or those outside won't be as easy to talk to as I am. Wang Hao smiled, frankly, whether it's 1 or 1,000, they're all useless to me. Liao Yunchuan burst into laughter. Wang Hao, everyone knows how strong your fighting ability is. In the entire Interstellar Federation, at your level, it's impossible to find someone who can defeat you. That's why the powerful forces have prepared a total of 300,000 members of the martial arts sect to deal with you. As soon as the words left his mouth, Wang Hao spat out a mouthful of red wine in disbelief. These guys didn't need to go so overboard. Chapter 313. 300,000? You really think highly of me, hey? Wang Hao scoffed coldly, but even if there were 3 million people, I could take them down with one Dongfeng missile. Liao Yunchuan's lips curled upwards, because you had used a Dongfeng missile at the ancient ruins. The entire upper echelon of the Interstellar Federation unanimously decided that if you dare use a level 5 damage weapon within the Interstellar Federation again, a weapon ban order would be imposed on you. A weapon ban order? Wang Hao frowned. Liao Yunchuan explained, this weapon ban order means that if you dare use a weapon of level 5 damage again, you will be thrown into jail and held for life. To deal with me, you're really sparing no effort. Wang Hao snorted coldly. Liao Yunchuan shrugged innocently, can't help it. No one can match you one-on-one, and none are as ruthless as you, so this is the only way we could think of. Haha, Wang Hao, you are quite impressive. Jian Taifeng stroked his beard and laughed heartily, I've lived for over 3,000 years and seen many talents like carps crossing the river, but compared to you, they are nothing. Wang Hao curled his lip, are you praising me or insulting me? Of course, I'm praising you. Jian Taifeng chuckled, I really want to see if you can fight your way out of this situation. Liao Yunchuan smirked disdainfully, even if Wang Hao's combat power was unmatched, facing 300,000 members of the martial arts sect would still leave him with nowhere to fly. Wang Hao sipped his red wine, getting out isn't a problem at all, but since you old folks want to watch the show, shouldn't you be paying for your tickets first? Haha, Jian Taifeng roared with laughter, since I've dominated the world, you are the first to dare to strike me, fool me, and still have the audacity to ask for benefits. As soon as the words fell, everyone in the hall broke out in a cold sweat. Although Jian Taifeng and the others, old immortals who had transcended worldly concerns, wouldn't fuss over little things with youngsters. No matter what, they were still among the peak powerhouses of the Interstellar Federation. But Wang Hao had actually hit Jian Taifeng, this was a crazy rhythm. Stop the useless chatter, giving benefits is just a matter of one word. Wang Hao said impatiently. Hearing this, the whole crowd was once again shocked. This guy was actually getting impatient, did he even understand what the 3 words Jian Taifeng represented? Jian Taifeng laughed loudly, not angry at all. He pointed to a suit of armor placed in a corner of the hall, as long as you can fight your way out, then this bright armor is yours. Wang Hao turned his head to look, only to see the armor designed in an ancient style, primarily gold with red outlines, and each armor plate was very thin, making it look extremely light. And on both arms of the armor, there were 2 arm blades, whose chilling light was hair-raising. Gu Yang quickly whispered in Wang Hao's ear, Marshal Sir, this bright armor combines both offense and defense. It is one of the top 10 level 6 alloy weapons of the Interstellar Federation, and it also uses the most materials. Wang Hao couldn't help but ask, you just put a level 6 alloy weapon out here? Gu Yang nodded, Tai Feng Sr. is right here on Tianma Star. If anyone dares to steal the bright armor, even if it has a space gem, there's no escaping. Wang Hao glanced at an automatic gun hanging near the bright armor on the wall, evidently, this was the Dawn automatic gun. I finally understand why Xi Rongxian dared to go after the Dawn. Wang Hao shook his head with a wry smile, guessing that Xi Rongxian might not have dreamt that what seemed an unguarded place actually had the highest level of defense measures. Wang Hao, this bright armor is pretty good, isn't it? Jian Taifeng stroked his beard and smiled. Wang Hao nodded, I'm very satisfied. Remember to mail it to me after I safely return to Tianbei University. Jian Taifeng laughed, don't get cocky just yet, kid. There are 300,000 from the martial arts sect outside. Let's see if you can break through their encirclement first. Wang Hao confidently smiled, within 5 days, I will definitely break out and safely return to Tianbei University. Alright, I'll be waiting to watch your performance, Jian Taifeng laughed loudly, then disappeared on the spot. Liao Yunchuan's gaze toward Wang Hao was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Not only did Jian Taifeng not mind Wang Hao's previous disrespectful actions, but he also rewarded him with the bright armor. Even a fool could see that he took a liking to Wang Hao. And gaining the favor of such an old monster meant that Wang Hao's backing had just become stronger. What was most infuriating was that Jian Taifeng wanted to give the bright armor to Wang Hao, which was supposed to belong to their presidential office as it was the armor of the first president. Unfortunately, after the first president unified the Galaxy Star system, he had given the bright armor to a trusted subordinate, and eventually, it ended up in the hands of Jian Taifeng. However, when the presidential office learned about this, they tried several times to buy the bright armor back from Jian Taifeng, but he had no interest in worldly possessions, and the deal was never concluded. A cold light flashed in Liao Yunchuan's eyes. This time, I will make sure Wang Hao finds it impossible to escape, and he won't just lose the bright armor, but also spit out the treasures he gained in the ruins. Just then, a large group of young men and women walked in, including Shuekyun Qin, Ling Xiao, Xia Weiwei, Li Xian, and others. Junior brother, are you all right? Ling Xiao stepped forward with concern. Wang Hao shrugged, I'm eating well, sleeping well, what could be wrong? That's good to hear. Ling Xiao sighed in relief. Wang Hao, can you give us a heads up next time before launching the Dongfeng missile? Xia Weiwei glared at Wang Hao with puffed cheeks. Although they had escaped quickly last time, their spacecraft was still affected. If it hadn't been for a nearby planet where they could land, their spacecraft would have disintegrated in space. I think junior brother will find it difficult to use them in the future, Ling Xiao said with a bitter smile, having heard about the weapons ban. Wang Hao curled his lip, do I need someone else's permission to use them? The moment that remark was made, the faces of the newcomers instantly darkened. What did he mean? Did the weapons ban not apply to him? Liao Yunchuan took a deep breath, don't get too smug, Wang Hao. Although Senior Jian thinks highly of you, if you go too far, there are still those who can handle you. After all, the Interstellar Federation isn't just Senior Jian. Wang Hao smirked playfully, what are you saying, are you looking down on old man Jian? Cough cough. Liao Yunchuan was instantly choked by his words. How could this damn guy be so annoying? In this Interstellar Federation, who would dare to look down on Jian Taifeng, or ignore the name Jian Taifeng? Ling Xiao and the others were confused as they didn't know who Senior Jian was, but they seemed to understand one thing, that Wang Hao had found another powerful backer. And with this backing, even if he launched Dongfeng missiles in the Interstellar Federation, the major powers couldn't do anything about him. Thinking this, Ling Xiao and the others were shocked. To be able to ignore the weapons ban issued by the major powers, this person must be terrifyingly powerful. Chapter 314. Outside Sky Sword Villa, a dark mass pressed in. 300,000 troops had surrounded Sky Sword Villa so tightly that even a mosquito, if it flew past, had to be checked for its gender before it could pass through. Ah! Suddenly, a miserable scream echoed. Ah! Following that, several more cries of agony sounded. Hurry up and activate the shields, the egg-shattering demon is here again. Someone shouted loudly, and the 300,000 troops quickly crouched to the ground, protecting their groins while activating their energy shields. Wang Hao, perched on the walls of Sky Sword Villa, could only shake his head in disappointment at the sight, then slung the sniper rifle over his shoulder and jumped down. Ling Xiao, on the ground, couldn't help but give a bitter smile. Since the 300,000 troops outside dared not enter Sky Sword Villa to cause trouble, Wang Hao stayed hidden inside. And he used a sniper rifle to target the groins of those from the martial arts sect from a distance. According to his understanding, during the 2 days Wang Hao had stayed in the Sky Sword Villa, a total of 10,000 men had suffered from his sniping. In other words, in 2 days, Wang Hao had created 10,000 eunuchs, which absolutely made him a wholesaler of eunuchs. Now these guys have gotten smart. As soon as I fire 2 shots, they react immediately. It's really no fun, Wang Hao muttered, looking very displeased. Ling Xiao bitterly laughed, junior brother, stop playing around. Let's figure out a way to break through. Gu Yang nodded repeatedly, Marshal, although this method reduces the number of enemies, don't forget, you and Marshal Tai Feng had an agreement to break out within 5 days. Breaking out is a trivial matter. I'm considering how to get my hands on Dawn, Wang Hao pursed his lips. Gu Yang was shocked, my Marshal, how can you still not give up on Dawn? Wang Hao rolled his eyes. When did I ever say that I had given up on Dawn? Gu Yang rubbed his temples, feeling a headache. In fact, when Wang Hao had inquired about Dawn, he had clearly told him that Dawn was untouchable, even going so far as to say that whoever touched it would die. Because Dawn was the gun that belonged to Jian Taifeng's deceased wife, an emotional support linking to his memories of her. If anyone dared to tamper with it, it would undoubtedly cause a massive uproar. He had thought that telling Wang Hao this would make him give it up, but Wang Hao still hadn't given up. Staying in the Sky Sword Villa for 2 days was just for Dawn. Junior brother, this is something you must not touch, Ling Xiao said gravely. Wang Hao pursed his lips. If even people from the DY terrorist organization can touch it, why can't I? Ling Xiao was so choked up he couldn't respond. How could these two be compared? The leader of the DY terrorist organization, although a martial saint named Seven Devils, was not well regarded by various forces, so they could never develop successfully. This lack of development directly resulted in their poor intelligence capabilities. So they only knew that Dawn was in Sky Sword Villa, but didn't know that Jian Taifeng was also on Tianma Star, and that Dawn was a treasure lodged in Sky Sword Villa for him. If the DY terrorist organization knew Dawn belonged to Jian Taifeng, even 10 times the courage wouldn't make them dare to touch it. At that moment, Xia Weiwei appeared not far away, followed by Liao Yunchuan. Ling Xiao said angrily, this Liao Yunchuan is really something, he already has a girlfriend, but now he's chasing after Weiwei. Wang Hao gave Ling Xiao a disdainful look. God knows who he learned it from, hooking up with someone else's girlfriend, and now he's gotten hold of this handle and was probably overjoyed inside. Yet he still had the audacity to put on that face, what a complete scumbag. Xia Weiwei shouted at Liao Yunchuan behind her, can you just go away, you're so annoying. Lady Weiwei, I really just want to invite you to dinner, Liao Yunchuan said politely with a smile. Scram! Xia Weiwei huffed, then walked towards Wang Hao. Wang Hao nudged Ling Xiao and asked, brother, what's Xia Weiwei's background, that even the president's son gets scolded like a wimp and still keeps on chasing her? Ling Xiao whispered back, junior brother, I can't explain in detail right now, just know that Xia Weiwei's background is terrifying. Is it that terrifying? Wang Hao asked. Ling Xiao nodded solemnly, very terrifying. Wang Hao, lend me a gun. Xia Weiwei huffed and stretched out a small hand for a gun. What do you need a gun for? Wang Hao handed a sniper rifle to Xia Weiwei. I'm going to be the egg-shattering demon today, Xia Weiwei huffed coldly, aiming the gun at Liao Yunchuan's groin. Man, she really lives up to the name of violent loli, truly fierce to the core. Wang Hao watched the scene with great interest. Liao Yunchuan smiled softly, quickly activated the energy shield, and maintained his smile. Ling Xiao pulled Wang Hao closer and whispered, junior brother, I think this guy also knows your ultimate technique of picking up girls. Wang Hao curled his lips, this guy can't pick up girls. Before, it must have been due to his status attracting women, now it's just pestering endlessly, not a bit of skill there. Gu Yang nodded, this persistent pestering has completely disgusted Lady Weiwei, so his chances of winning her over are 0. See, someone knows what they're talking about. Wang Hao looked at Gu Yang and raised an eyebrow, brother Gu seems to have a profound understanding of women. Hey. Gu Yang said modestly, there are millions of women in the world, but only 6 can kill me. 6. Ling Xiao looked puzzled. What does that mean? Forgive me, brother Gu has a broad mind. Wang Hao bowed with his fist, I'm a bit higher in realm than you, those 6 women would all go crazy for me. Admiration, admiration. Marshal, you truly are a genius, Gu Yang looked impressed. So young, yet so accomplished, I have much to learn from you in the future. Ling Xiao was dumbstruck, he couldn't understand what the two were talking about at all. Xia Weiwei, unable to contain her curiosity, asked, which 6 women can kill you? Gu Yang was slightly embarrassed and didn't know how to start. Chatting with men is one thing, but saying these things in front of a woman felt rather improper. Wang Hao explained softly, brother Gu means, he could be charmed to death by beautiful women, thrilled to death by promiscuous women, loved to death by gentle women, hooked to death by talented women, played to death by rich women, and done in by women in power. Disgusting pervert. Xia Weiwei couldn't help but mutter, she shouldn't have asked these questions. Ling Xiao was shocked. This wasn't about 6 women, but 6 types of women, encompassing all the women in the world. No wonder Wang Hao said Gu Yang had a broad mind, this was truly a welcoming attitude. Humph, indeed a shameless rogue, utterly devoid of any understanding of life, Liao Yunchuan spoke disdainfully. Wang Hao replied sarcastically, as the saying goes, to make life more interesting, why not smear some green on your head? Young man, you understand life so well, how much green have you smeared? Gu Yang looked at Wang Hao with admiration. Truly deserving of a man who could drive 6 types of women crazy. When it comes to this topic, he indeed is full of insight. Chapter 315. You, Liao Yunchuan's face turned the color of iron with anger. Ling Xiao awkwardly chuckled, although he had cuckolded Liao Yunchuan, did his junior brother really need to make it known to the whole world? Just then, a chilling voice sounded, Wang Hao. Immediately following that was an overwhelming murderous aura. Who? Wang Hao's eyebrows furrowed. At that moment, an extremely sharp breaking wind formation resounded abruptly. Then, a black silhouette, like a long rainbow, swept directly toward him, and at the same time, a terrifying sword chi tore through the void, thunderously stabbing towards Wang Hao. Junior brother! Ling Xiao exclaimed in shock as he swiftly pulled out his long sword to meet the incoming stab. Wang Hao's reaction was no slower, his feet shifted slightly, narrowly avoiding the sword chi that slashed through the void. Clang! In the blink of an eye, the crisp sound of swords clashing rang out, sparks flying everywhere. Ling Xiao's face drastically changed as a super strong force transmitted from his sword, forcing him to take several steps back before he could stop. By the time the black silhouette landed, Ling Xiao and the others trembled in their stance, their expressions grave as they looked at the dark figure. It was a young man, but his face bore a scar, as terrifying as if he had crawled up from hell, and frightfully daunting. You are Li Yunyang. Ling Xiao's pupils shrank sharply, and though the person's face was disfigured, he still recognized him. It was unmistakably Li Yunyang. What happened to you, Li Yunyang? Xia Weiwei couldn't help but ask curiously. Li Yunyang's expression was emotionless as he replied coolly, Wang Hao, you never imagined I would make it out alive from the ancient relic, did you? Ancient relic? Everyone took a sharp breath. Could it be that when Wang Hao launched the Star Sky missiles inside the ancient relic, Li Yunyang didn't escape on time and was destroyed along with the relic? Me being alive has nothing to do with you. Wang Hao replied with an innocent face. Li Yunyang's face instantly twisted fiercely, roaring, the ancient relic was destroyed, I was adrift in dimension space, and the only reason I came back with sheer willpower is because you didn't die. Moreover, after returning, I didn't remove the scar from my face. This shame you brought upon me, I must personally reclaim it. Tell me, how does it not concern you? Wang Hao thought for a moment, then shook his head, sorry, you're just too weak. Defeating you brings no sense of achievement, so honestly, I have absolutely no interest in you. As soon as he finished speaking, the people present instinctively took a step back to distance themselves from this dark-hearted guy. Treating Li Yunyang so miserably, yet Wang Hao never even deigned to give him a single straight look from the beginning to the end. This blow was even more brutal than the torture Li Yunyang suffered in the Yao Tian Federation. Wang Hao, pay with your life. At that moment, Li Yunyang completely lost his reason, his face twisting hideously as if to vent all the fury in his heart onto the great sword in his hand. Immediately, the giant sword danced wildly, huge shadows of the blade tore through the void, emitting sharp whistling sounds, the intersecting sword chi and shadows enwreathed, clearly aiming to completely tear Wang Hao apart. The bystanders, caught in a tempest, even forgot to breathe, evidently Li Yunyang's strength surpassed their expectations. The next second, however, everyone let out sighs of disappointment. Without Wang Hao, Li Yunyang could have been a super genius surpassing Wang Tianyi, and he would have been the sovereign of this era. Wang Hao's arrival overshadowed the brilliance of all the younger generation within the Interstellar Federation. Even if Li Yunyang was the moon, it was difficult to compare with Wang Hao, the sun. Noisy. Wang Hao snorted coldly, channeling the wild power within him into his great sword. A terrifying gust of wind swept out, overturning the layered cobblestones on the ground. At the same time, a series of sword shadows, tall like majestic mountains, squeezed a few meters around into a distorted void. Seeing this, the spectators all retreated. Clang! Immediately, a melodious and piercing sound of metal striking metal abruptly filled the air, causing ripples to surge through the void for several meters around. Wang Hao frowned as he saw Li Yunyang astonishingly releasing his grip on his sword the moment the two blades met to counter his strike using the momentum from the great sword's swing. And after the swords clashed, he caught his great sword once more and continued the collision. Li Yuniang is so clever. Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly brightened. Wang Hao's innate heavenly tyrant power allowed him to transfer that energy through the weapon to the opponent's body during a clash, catching them off guard. But Li Yuniang had the ingenuity to let go of his sword at the moment of impact and then use the great sword to continue fighting. However, this method seemed simple but actually tested one's vision, as well as the control and reflexive ability regarding power. And the fact that Li Yuniang came up with and executed it proved that he was a superb genius. It was just a pity that he was born in the same era as Wang Hao. Bang! At that moment, Wang Hao suddenly shot forward like a fleeting glimmer, and in a flash, his palm harshly struck Li Yuniang's shoulder. Immediately, a terrifying force crazily surged into Li Yuniang's body, sending him flying backward as he released a hair-raising, miserable scream. As expected, the outcome hasn't changed. Ling Xiao gave Li Yuniang a sympathetic look. It wasn't that Li Yuniang wasn't strong enough, but Wang Hao was simply more monstrous, more demonic. Putting aside anything else, the inherent light speed step alone could make Wang Hao unbeatable in an equal level fight. Furthermore, with the other innate martial skills Wang Hao had mastered, it was simply a complete domination at the same level. Therefore, from the very beginning, Li Yuniang's defeat was destined, unless he too could comprehend an innate light speed step. Li Yuniang, clasping his chest, struggled to get up from the ground. He had exhausted every possible way to break through Wang Hao's heavenly tyrant power, but in the end, he was still struck by Wang Hao's palm, with the heavenly tyrant power injected into his body. "Is that all you're capable of?" Wang Hao said indifferently. At this moment, Gu Yat, the eldest brother of Gu Yang, came forward. "Could I ask you two gentlemen to spare my face and stop fighting for a moment?" Wang Hao shrugged his shoulders. "I've always respected Sky Sword Villa. It's just that this guy came at me with lethal intent, which is why I retaliated." With that, Wang Hao casually snapped his fingers. PFF. The next second, Li Yuniang suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his breath instantly wilted, but his dark eyes were filled with unwillingness. Upon witnessing this, everyone's face darkened instantly. They really couldn't tell how this was supposed to show respect to the hosts. Wang Hao's mouth quirked up slightly. This time he had injected a considerable amount of heavenly tyrant power into Li Yuniang's body, and even if that kid practiced the heaven and earth ascending dragon skill, there was no way he could refine that amount of heavenly tyrant power in such a short time. Chapter 315, Chapter 314. Is this called giving face? You, Liao Yunchuan's face turned the color of iron with anger. Ling Xiao awkwardly chuckled. Although he had cuckolded Liao Yunchuan, did his junior brother really need to make it known to the whole world? Just then, a chilling voice sounded, "Wang Hao." Immediately following that was an overwhelming murderous aura. Who? Wang Hao's eyebrows furrowed. At that moment, an extremely sharp breaking wind formation resounded abruptly. Then, a black silhouette, like a long rainbow, swept directly toward him, and at the same time, a terrifying sword chi tore through the void, thunderously stabbing towards Wang Hao. "Junior brother!" Ling Xiao exclaimed in shock as he swiftly pulled out his long sword to meet the incoming stab. Wang Hao's reaction was no slower. His feet shifted slightly, narrowly avoiding the sword chi that slashed through the void. Clang! In the blink of an eye, the crisp sound of swords clashing rang out, sparks flying everywhere. Ling Xiao's face drastically changed as a super strong force transmitted from his sword, forcing him to take several steps back before he could stop. By the time the black silhouette landed, Ling Xiao and the others trembled in their stance, their expressions grave as they looked at the dark figure. It was a young man, but his face bore a scar, as terrifying as if he had crawled up from hell, and frightfully daunting. "You are Li Yuniang." Ling Xiao's pupils shrank sharply, and though the person's face was disfigured, he still recognized him. It was unmistakably Li Yuniang. "What happened to you, Li Yuniang?" Xia Weiwei couldn't help but ask curiously. Li Yuniang's expression was emotionless as he replied coolly, "Wang Hao, you never imagined I would make it out alive from the ancient relic, did you?" Ancient relic? Everyone took a sharp breath. Could it be that when Wang Hao launched the Star Sky missiles inside the ancient relic, Li Yuniang didn't escape on time and was destroyed along with the relic? "Me being alive has nothing to do with you," Wang Hao replied with an innocent face. Li Yuniang's face instantly twisted fiercely, roaring, "The ancient relic was destroyed. I was adrift in dimension space, and the only reason I came back with sheer willpower is because you didn't die. Moreover, after returning, I didn't remove the scar from my face. This shame you brought upon me, I must personally reclaim it. Tell me, how does it not concern you? Wang Hao thought for a moment, then shook his head, sorry, you're just too weak. Defeating you brings no sense of achievement, so honestly, I have absolutely no interest in you. As soon as he finished speaking, the people present instinctively took a step back to distance themselves from this dark-hearted guy. Treating Li Yunyang so miserably, yet Wang Hao never even deigned to give him a single straight look from the beginning to the end. This blow was even more brutal than the torture Li Yunyang suffered in the Yao Tian Federation. Wang Hao, pay with your life. At that moment, Li Yunyang completely lost his reason, his face twisting hideously as if to vent all the fury in his heart onto the great sword in his hand. Immediately, the giant sword danced wildly, huge shadows of the blade tore through the void, emitting sharp whistling sounds, the intersecting sword chi and shadows enwreathed, clearly aiming to completely tear Wang Hao apart. The bystanders, caught in a tempest, even forgot to breathe, evidently Li Yunyang's strength surpassed their expectations. The next second, however, everyone let out sighs of disappointment. Without Wang Hao, Li Yunyang could have been a super genius surpassing Wang Tianyi, and he would have been the sovereign of this era. Wang Hao's arrival overshadowed the brilliance of all the younger generation within the Interstellar Federation. Even if Li Yunyang was the moon, it was difficult to compare with Wang Hao, the sun. Noisy. Wang Hao snorted coldly, channeling the wild power within him into his great sword. A terrifying gust of wind swept out, overturning the layered cobblestones on the ground. At the same time, a series of sword shadows, tall like majestic mountains, squeezed a few meters around into a distorted void. Seeing this, the spectators all retreated. Clang! Immediately, a melodious and piercing sound of metal striking metal abruptly filled the air, causing ripples to surge through the void for several meters around. Wang Hao frowned as he saw Li Yunyang astonishingly releasing his grip on his sword the moment the two blades met to counter his strike using the momentum from the great sword's swing. And after the swords clashed, he caught his great sword once more and continued the collision. Li Yunyang is so clever. Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly brightened. Wang Hao's innate heavenly tyrant power allowed him to transfer that energy through the weapon to the opponent's body during a clash, catching them off guard. But Li Yunyang had the ingenuity to let go of his sword at the moment of impact and then use the great sword to continue fighting. However, this method seemed simple but actually tested one's vision, as well as the control and reflexive ability regarding power. And the fact that Li Yunyang came up with and executed it proved that he was a superb genius. It was just a pity that he was born in the same era as Wang Hao. Bang! At that moment, Wang Hao suddenly shot forward like a fleeting glimmer, and in a flash, his palm harshly struck Li Yunyang's shoulder. Immediately, a terrifying force crazily surged into Li Yunyang's body, sending him flying backward as he released a hair-raising, miserable scream. As expected, the outcome hasn't changed. Ling Xiao gave Li Yunyang a sympathetic look. It wasn't that Li Yunyang wasn't strong enough, but Wang Hao was simply more monstrous, more demonic. Putting aside anything else, the inherent light speed step alone could make Wang Hao unbeatable in an equal level fight. Furthermore, with the other innate martial skills Wang Hao had mastered, it was simply a complete domination at the same level. Therefore, from the very beginning, Li Yunyang's defeat was destined, unless he too could comprehend an innate light speed step. Li Yunyang, clasping his chest, struggled to get up from the ground. He had exhausted every possible way to break through Wang Hao's heavenly tyrant power, but in the end, he was still struck by Wang Hao's palm, with the heavenly tyrant power injected into his body. Is that all you are capable of? Wang Hao said indifferently. At this moment, Gu Yat, the eldest brother of Gu Yang, came forward. Could I ask you two gentlemen to spare my face and stop fighting for a moment? Wang Hao shrugged his shoulders. I've always respected Sky Sword Villa. It's just that this guy came at me with lethal intent, which is why I retaliated. With that, Wang Hao casually snapped his fingers. The next second, Li Yunyang suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his breath instantly wilted, but his dark eyes were filled with unwillingness. Upon witnessing this, everyone's face darkened instantly. They really couldn't tell how this was supposed to show respect to the hosts. Wang Hao's mouth quirked up slightly. This time he had injected a considerable amount of heavenly tyrant power into Li Yunyang's body, and even if that kid practiced the heaven and earth ascending dragon skill, there was no way he could refine that amount of heavenly tyrant power in such a short time. Chapter 316. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for inspiring Li Yuniang's determination to kill all the evil people in the world, the consciousness to support justice, and the great goal of devoting his life to justice. You have obtained 100,000 sin points. Wang Hao glanced at Li Yuniang, who was glaring at him, and thought to himself that after being bullied by him so many times, not only had his spirit not collapsed, but he was actually planning to uphold justice. Was this a rhythm of contending with him to the bitter end? Why is there such a consciousness to uphold justice, and what does this mean? Wang Hao called out to the system, asking. System prompt: there are two kinds of hero growth. One is guided by others, aspiring to become a hero, the other is after suffering through hardships, unwilling to see the people in pain, planning to change the course of destiny with one's own power. Hero. Wang Hao frowned and said, you mean, this guy already has the makings of a hero? Correct. After suffering greatly, Li Yuniang has ignited the undying sense of justice in his heart. He will walk the path of eliminating harm for the people. Wang Hao scratched his chin and pondered, in that case, I shouldn't kill him now, but let him eliminate harm for the people and build up his reputation as a hero, then set him up to fall from grace and ruin his name. The system is relieved that the host finally understands the true essence of a villain who operates from behind the scenes, turning the hand for clouds, and overturning the hand for rain. What operating from behind the scenes? Wang Hao snorted, I simply never took Li Yuniang seriously at all. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for abandoning the idea of killing Li Yuniang and planning to play the hero nurturing plan, gaining a system store discount. System store discount? Wang Hao was stunned for a moment, wondering what on earth this was. With Li Yuniang's peerless talent among his peers and an undying sense of justice in his heart, he is the cherished son of Heavenly Dao. The system explained, currently, the host is pressing him down from all sides, leaving him no opportunity to turn the tables. As an initial reward, a discount offer, hoping the host will continue to put Heavenly Dao's cherished son into a bind and make him doubt his life of justice, ensuring rich rewards. Heavenly Dao's cherished son. Wang Hao was puzzled and curiously asked, what is that? Heavenly Dao is the nemesis of villains, the birth mother of warriors of justice. The system explained, no matter how amazing a villain is, in the end, evil cannot prevail over good, becoming equipment supplies for the righteous, an experience bar for leveling up, and a stepping stone on the road to success. Wang Hao scratched his chin, thinking that all this rambling amounted to one thing: whenever you encounter Heavenly Dao's cherished son, you must trick them and do it viciously. If there's a chance, then corrupt his son. Not only would this net a huge amount of sin points, but it would also bring all sorts of discounts and rewards. Put plainly, Li Yuniang, Heavenly Dao's cherished son, was akin to a mini-boss in a game. And merely by not killing him, endless treasures and experience points could be farmed absolutely delightful. Of course, if he killed Li Yuniang, there would probably be a huge reward too, but killing the goose that lays the golden eggs clearly did not align with his pursuit for maximized benefits. System prompt: the host must not take this lightly. You should know that warriors of justice level up by fighting small monsters before they can defeat the great demon king. If the host does not control this properly, there's a good chance of being taken out by the warriors of justice. Taken out? Wang Hao couldn't help but laugh and said, I'm running a paid cheat, there's a world of difference compared to these justice warriors using free cheats. They want to take me out, not even close. The host is correct, as this system is paid, naturally it comes with the benefits of being paid much more awesome than those righteous warriors relying on Heavenly Dao's given fortune to live by, the system boasted pompously. Fortune? What's that? Wang Hao asked, curious. The system explained, luck is just that, luck. It's distributed by the Heavenly Dao to every creature in the universe. Some creatures get a ton, like those heaven's darlings who find romance every time they step out the door and constantly stumble upon treasures. Then there are folks with so little luck that they could choke to death on cold water even at home. Then do I have a lot of luck? Wang Hao couldn't help but ask. As the host has the system, you have no luck, the system consoled. The host just needs to work hard to become a cosmic level villain, and then killing the Heavenly Dao and controlling luck won't be a problem at all. Wang Hao nodded, then what do you think I should buy with this discount? The system suggests that the host could purchase the White Tiger body, original price 3 billion sin points. With the system's discount, it's 300,000 sin points. Holy shit! Wang Hao cursed. The price had dropped from 3 billion to just 300,000 sin points. This deal was so good he felt like finding another son of the heavenly Dao right away. If he didn't swindle them into questioning their life, he definitely wouldn't let it go. The system reminds you that sons of the heavenly Dao are rare and should be treated with care when found, the system advised. Protect them and make them doubt their life so they become the targets of the world's scorn. Damn, you can really say some twisted stuff, Wang Hao began to suspect. If this system disliked the sons of the heavenly Dao so much, could it have a grudge against the heavenly Dao? Otherwise, why would it be so intent on screwing with them? The system always operates by the rules and never allows personal grudges to interfere, the system responded with utmost seriousness. Wang Hao sneered. If he believed that, he'd be a fool. Bring up the details on the white tiger body for me to see. White tiger body, king of slaughter, accompanied by blood, the more you fight, the braver you get. After use, one can absorb energy from the blood to quickly replenish stamina, achieving an effect where the braver you get in battle, the more stamina you replenish. Holy moly, is this trying to make me solo 30,000 martial arts sect members? Wang Hao gaped at the information presented. Although he knew the white tiger body priced at 3 billion sin points had to be badass, he truly hadn't expected it to be this spectacular. It was like being the indestructible cockroach. No. It was an indestructible war god, a killing god born for battle. Seeing the attribute of the white tiger body, Wang Hao couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart and said to everyone, I've just had an epiphany, I need to go back and train. With that, he ignored the stunned looks from everyone present and rushed back to his room. My god, is this junior brother going to leave any room for us to live? Ling Xiao let out a wry smile. Wang Hao had just finished totally owning Li Yuniang, and now he's already hit with an epiphany. Is it really okay to be this demoralizing? The number one talent of the Interstellar Federation is terrifying indeed, Gu Yang took a deep breath, calming himself. But inside, he was over the moon with excitement. He was now a general in Wang Hao's legion. As long as he followed in Wang Hao's footsteps, he was sure to leave his mark on history. I'm off to train too, Gu Ye said, stealing a long glance at Wang Hao's retreating figure, then turned around and left. Gu Yang shook his head and muttered, Big brother, why do you even bother? Liao Yunchuan's brow furrowed, murmuring to himself, no wonder the Skyfire Company and the Potion Guild are protecting Wang Hao so much. His talent is just too terrifying. So what should our president's house do? Be foes, or be friends? Chapter 317. Wang Hao, Li Yuniang struggled to stand up, clenching his teeth as he watched Wang Hao walk away. He swore to himself that he would eliminate Wang Hao and restore peace to the world. With this in mind, Li Yuniang limped towards the exit of Sky Sword Villa. He needed to cultivate, to train even harder, using the evil of the world as a stepping stone to hasten his growth. These two are such freaks, I've got to work hard as well, muttered Xia Weiwei, deciding to return to her cultivation. Liao Yunchuan hurriedly followed her, he had to show Xia Weiwei his sincerity. Xia Weiwei's face darkened, feeling that without some decisive maneuver, she wouldn't be able to shake off this persistent irritant. Liao Yunchuan, do you really intend to pursue me? Xia Weiwei curled her lips, revealing her sharp little tiger teeth. Liao Yunchuan nodded repeatedly, I will marry no one but Miss Xia. Xia Weiwei gave Liao Yunchuan a look of sympathy, then suddenly asked, do you know why Li Yuniang ended up being tricked so badly by Wang Hao? Liao Yunchuan shook his head to indicate he didn't know. It's because Li Yuniang pursued Li Xian, while Wang Hao is particularly protective of his food, he absolutely won't allow the women around him to be coveted by other men, Xinyy Wei said with a smile. Wang Hao likes Miss Li Xian, but what does that have to do with you? Liao Yunchuan asked, confused. What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? Xia Weiwei raised her voice, that bastard publicly kissed me twice. Twice. Liao Yunchuan felt an inexplicable pain in his heart and his mind began to race. If he succeeded in pursuing Xia Weiwei, he could then rely on the Xia family to secure the future position of president. But this would definitely offend Wang Hao. And the sorry tale of Li Yuniang was a testament to Wang Hao's level of cunning, practically a great demon king. If he really caught Wang Hao's attention, could he really avoid his wrath? Torn, Liao Yunchuan decided not to provoke Wang Hao's nerves for the time being and to observe the situation first. With that thought, Liao Yunchuan turned and left without following Xia Weiwei anymore. This guy is really too cowardly, right? Scoffed Xia Weiwei. Ling Xiao gave a wry smile, knowing the young lady had brought up Wang Hao's name, which man wouldn't be timid? Did they really want to end up like Li Yuniang, suffering from a ruined reputation and shattered pride, followed by a disfigured face inspiring them to fight on? Xia, using my reputation to swindle and bluff like this isn't very ethical, is it? Wang Hao suddenly appeared behind Xia Weiwei. Xia Weiwei jumped in fright. Weren't you going into seclusion? Why are you back again? Wang Hao shrugged innocently. I've finished my closed-door cultivation. Didn't you notice that my cultivation has already broken through to the martial arts sect level 4? In fact, Wang Hao himself hadn't expected that his white tiger constitution would complete its transformation in only 10 seconds and had also increased his cultivation by a level, reaching 3rd level martial arts sect. Truly, a product of the system that couldn't be praised enough. No way, are you kidding me? Ling Xiao and Gu Yang looked at Wang Hao in shock. Even with potions, it seemed impossible to break through in such a short time. Wang Hao raised his eyebrows. Xia, since you say I'm guarding my food, how about I wrap you up and take you home tonight? Xia Weiwei glared at Wang Hao, pouting angrily. Wang Hao, I'm only interested in beauties. I have no interest in you stinky men, so don't even think about hitting on me. Damn, Weiwei, even you can say something so outrageous, Wang Hao said with disdain. There are barely enough women as it is, and here you are planning on internal depletion. How are all the single dogs supposed to live? It's a fair competition, what does it have to do with me? Xia Weiwei said haughtily, lifting her head. Wang Hao came over to Xia Weiwei, hooked his little finger gently on the collar of her clothes, and looked down to see a small, delicate white brassiere, saying with a look of disdain, no wonder you are looking for a woman, it turns out it's because you are too small yourself and want to try out someone else's feel. Ah, Xia Weiwei screamed, pushed Wang Hao away, then covered her chest with both hands, her pretty face blushing red with anger at this big pervert. What are you screaming for? I don't even like to look at something so small, Wang Hao said dismissively, thinking that this violent little loli was full of energy and would develop nicely, but the result had disappointed him utterly, probably just an A cup. You, Xia Weiwei stomped her feet in anger, then turned her head with tears in her eyes and ran off. Ling Xiao couldn't stand it. Junior brother, although Lady Weiwei is usually careless, she is still a girl, how can she stand your hooliganism? Look, now she's crying. Gu Yang gave Wang Hao a thumbs up. He was totally impressed with how Wang Hao played the hooligan simply unstoppable. Cut the crap, she's using my name to swindle people outside, and I'm not crying, what right does she have to cry? Wang Hao said, took out a little spider rented from the system, and threw it into the hall where the Don was located. Junior brother, you, Ling Xiao's face changed color, deeply impressed by the little spider that had caused a huge turnaround in the Yaotian Federation. Now that Wang Hao had brought it out again and even thrown it into the hall, was it for the Don automatic gun? Making a fuss over nothing, it's not like you haven't seen it before, Wang Hao said, flipping his palm over, a level 5 alloy giant sword appeared in his hand, and without any hesitation, he leaped out of the Sky Sword Villa. Junior brother, are you out of your mind? Ling Xiao exclaimed, quickly chasing after. Outside now, there are 300,000 warriors of the martial arts sect. What use would Wang Hao be alone? Wang Hao is out. Someone shouted, and the 300,000 warriors of the martial arts sect outside the Sky Sword Villa instantly became energized, like lions waking from slumber, as terrifying bursts of true qi instantly erupted, boiling the clouds in the sky. And on the outskirts of the 300,000 strong army, there were another 30,000 troops. They were warriors from the Potion Guild and Skyfire Company, all strictly trained with a firm will to fight. However, limited by their numbers, they couldn't break through the 300,000 warriors and could only hover on the outside. Brothers, Mr. Wang is out. Let's all charge, let's carve a bloody path for Mr. Wang. I'll break even if I kill one today, profit if I kill two. Kill. The next second, the thunderous sound of slaughter rose, and the 30,000 troops fearlessly charged the 300,000 strong army. Front 3, back 7, split. The 300,000 strong army weren't fools, they immediately split into two parts, with 90,000 troops taking on Wang Hao, and the remaining 210,000 facing the 30,000 warriors from the Potion Guild and Skyfire Company. Chapter 318. Sky Sword Villa, in the garden. Senior Jian Taifeng was enjoying tea with Gu Jian. Beside them, Gu Ye was practicing swordplay. Gu Jian, watching Gu Ye practicing, asked curiously, what's gotten into this kid? He usually doesn't practice the sword at this time, does he? Jian Taifeng laughed, he's been struck by a blow. With two monsters emerging at once in the Interstellar Federation, how could he not be anxious? 2. Gu Jian looked puzzled. Jian Taifeng let out a breath, as the landscape changes, new talents emerge. I'm truly old now. This Sky Sword Villa was only so big, how could he have missed the fight between Wang Hao and Li Yuniang? What he had never considered was that Li Yuniang had actually also realized the unity of heaven and man. Senior Jian, you jest. You are the guardian god of the Interstellar Federation, how could you be old? Gu Jian quickly tried to comfort him. There's no need to comfort me, actually, there's nothing bad about growing old. Senior Taifeng stroked his beard and laughed heartily, look at me, relying on swindling, I've not only bought a house but also a car, and my next target is to buy a spaceship. Gu Jian's eyelid twitched, feeling as if 10,000 grass mud horses were stampeding through his heart. Others come to Tianmastar to live in seclusion, playing cards, dancing in squares. But this one, always thinking about exploiting the younger generation to get rich, truly a shameless old rascal. Kill. Just then, a thunderous sound of slaughter rose from outside Sky Sword Villa. Haha, Wang Hao finally made his move. Senior Taifeng's eyes suddenly brightened, he laughed loudly, and leaped onto the roof to watch the great battle of several 100,000 from the martial arts sect afar. Oops, what's wrong, has Wang Hao gone mad? He's actually chosen to make a lone charge out, Senior Taifeng looked surprised. He thought Wang Hao would use countless methods to break through. But he never considered, Wang Hao would be crazy enough to charge alone towards 300,000 from the martial arts sect. Senior Taifeng, do you think Wang Hao has the ability to fight his way out? Gu Jian asked curiously. Senior Taifeng shook his head, although Wang Hao has realized the unity of heaven and man, as well as mastered several natural martial skills, making him an emperor-like existence among his peers, he is still mortal after all. Sooner or later, his strength will wane. I estimate that 2,000 troops will be his limit. Face 2,000 troops alone. Gu Jian inhaled sharply. What concept is it for one to face 2,000 troops alone at the same level? That's monstrous. Kill. Several shouts of slaughter rang out, dozens from the martial arts sect turned into shadows charging towards Wang Hao. True Qi crisscrossed, densely covering all of Wang Hao's major vital points, and the void hissed ominously. Wang Hao's eyes calm as still water, ignoring the true Qi in the void, took a step, his figure ghostly as he dragged shadows behind him, rushing towards the endless crowd. In the next second, the giant sword in Wang Hao's hand rapidly descended, with momentum and sword Qi from the charge, each strike thunderous. Ah! A flash of sword light, and a miserable cry followed. A martial arts sect member failed to dodge completely and had his arm severed and thrown into the air. Wang Hao's expression remained unchanged, the sword light reappeared, and an incredibly sharp sword Qi surged down like a strip of fabric, defeating several nearby members of the martial arts sect. PFF. When the giant sword contacted the opponent's weapon, several members of the martial arts sect felt as though they had struck a mountain. Blood spurted out, their bodies convulsed with internal tumult, their spirit instantly wilted, losing the strength to fight again. At the same time, the blood that spurted out seemed to be drawn by some force, turning into streams of energy merging into Wang Hao's body, slowly turning his true Qi a crimson red. And as time passed, Wang Hao's true Qi grew redder and redder. Blood stained the earth red, and Wang Hao, like entering a realm devoid of people, stepped over severed limbs and broken arms, moving forward with an indifferent expression. Watching Wang Hao, as if reincarnated as a war god, the more he killed, the more spirited he became, the entire martial arts sect quaked in speechless terror. This trademark is simply not human. Others lose strength as they kill, but Wang Hao gets more vigorous, how the hell are they supposed to fight against that? Wang Hao's lips curled into a somewhat resplendent smile. I heard that all the major powers mobilized 300,000 troops to deal with me, but in my view, these 300,000 troops are trash. Hearing this, the martial arts sect around him were all enraged. Damn it, one man alone challenging their 300,000, and he even dares to be so arrogant. Brothers, kill. Today we must chop down that bastard Wang Hao. Today I'll let you see who the trash really is. Kill. Stop the trademark chatter. Wang Hao curled his lip and, like a phantom, charged into the crowd. The next second, a tide of blood surged, spattering the ground with a gory crimson, as sorrowful cries filled the space between heaven and earth. At the same time, in Wang Hao's mind, the system's voice kept ringing, "Ding dong, congratulations to the host for annihilating a martial arts sect, gaining 10 sin points. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for annihilating a martial arts sect, gaining 10 sin points." What a terrifying kid! Jian Taifeng was deeply shocked by the scene in front of him. He simply could not imagine what kind of monster would dare take on 300,000 people alone. Moreover, those 300,000 people were like nothing to him. Even the martial arts sect who survived a sword strike from Wang Hao would instantly lose their fighting strength, completely displaying an attitude of if gods block, kill the gods, if Buddhas block, kill the Buddhas. The most terrifying thing was the red true qi around Wang Hao, which was like a super battery pack, constantly helping Wang Hao recover his physical strength, true qi, and spiritual power. If this keeps up, Wang Hao annihilating these 300,000 is just a matter of time, truly terrifying and overwhelmingly mighty. Gu Jian swallowed hard, beads of sweat appearing on his forehead. He could completely imagine that after today's battle ended, the name Wang Hao would be enough to keep the major powers up at night with worry. In a one-on-one fight, at the same level, no one was Wang Hao's match, and even those several levels above him couldn't harm him. In a group fight, a 300,000 strong army couldn't stop the edge of Wang Hao's blade, a completely one-sided massacre. Who could sleep well or eat facing such an opponent? Ling Xiao and Gu Yang, after rushing out of Sky Sword Villa, had been staring dumbfounded at Wang Hao, slaughtering left and right in the crowd. They really couldn't imagine if such actions were possible for a person. Da-da-da! Just then, a burst of dense gunfire rang out. Everyone looked up, only to see Little White, emerging from behind Wang Hao's hat, holding a Gatling machine gun and sweeping at the martial arts sect trying to sneak attack Wang Hao from the rear. "Is this the marshal's secret weapon?" asked Gu Yang, dumbfounded, as he had never before seen a rabbit that could shoot. Ling Xiao nodded. "Little White is a devastating weapon carefully cultivated by my junior brother. If anyone dares to underestimate it, they will surely die without a burial place." A devastating weapon. Gu Yang was extremely curious about what the rabbit could do to be called a devastating weapon by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao did not reveal any more. This was Wang Hao's trump card. Naturally, the fewer people who knew about it, the better. He was also very much looking forward to the moment when the long-range brain sensing technology was breached and Little White transformed into a mecha battle rabbit. He was eager to see what kind of combat power would burst forth when it teamed up with Wang Hao. Chapter 319. Sky Sword Villa. Li Xian, Xia Weiwei, and Shuek Yunqin stood on a rooftop, stunned for a long time by Wang Hao's invincible demeanor. Although they knew Wang Hao was formidable, they had never imagined he would be to such an extent. His abilities seemed to transcend human capabilities. "Weiwei, I think your chances of getting revenge are gone," Li Xian said blankly. After Xia Weiwei was teased by Wang Hao, she had gone to find her and Shuek Yunqin, hoping they could help her get revenge. But considering Wang Hao's fierce combat power and his shameless personality, if they went, they were 100% sure they would be captured, taken to a small room for embarrassing acts, and then devoured completely, bones and all. So, for their own safety, it was better to keep their distance from this vile rogue. "Weiwei, you better stay away from Wang Hao from now on." Shuek Yunqin comforted her, patting Xia Weiwei's little head. I, Xia Weiwei pouted, her face filled with defiance. She was particularly upset thinking about how Wang Hao had pulled her collar, looked at her underwear, and even commented on her small breasts. What if her breasts were small? She was only 17 years old this year and still had plenty of time to grow. How could this big pervert make such a conclusion? However, as soon as she saw Wang Hao's invincible manner, slaughtering left and right, Xia Weiwei immediately lost her temper. She definitely couldn't beat him, and she couldn't outscold this vile rogue either. Her only option was to pretend nothing had happened. Thinking of this, Xia Weiwei's eyes filled with tears of frustration. What had she done in her past life to deserve encountering such a thorough rogue in this one? At this moment, young masters and ladies from various major forces were also shocked into stupidity. Meanwhile, they all let out a sorrowful sigh, wondering why they had to be born in the same era as this monster. If Wang Hao were merely unmatched in combat, they wouldn't be too sad, for they were all heirs to great powers, with tens of thousands of subordinates. One person might not win, but a group certainly would. Yet shockingly, Wang Hao, disregarding the numbers advantage, fought alone against 300,000 troops. Could such a monster even be considered human? Alas, order the troops to retreat. Liao Yunchuan sighed helplessly. Although he was extremely reluctant, Wang Hao grew fiercer as the battle went on. Continuing this way, they would gain no advantage and only suffer losses. So, it was better early than too late to retreat, while their loss was not too great. After all, these 300,000 from the martial arts sect were not rained down from heaven. And just as everyone was captivated by the shocking battle outside, a small spider appeared on the wall of the meeting hall of Sky Sword Villa. The little spider quickly dashed towards the Dawn automatic gun, swallowed it in one bite, and then, without stopping, scurried away. Dang, 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 dang. Just then, the sounds of retreating troops arose. Upon hearing this, the faces of hundreds of thousands of martial arts sect members, previously filled with fear, finally showed a hint of relief. Not engaging Wang Hao directly in battle, no one knew how immense the psychological pressure could be, for the fear of death looming over every moment was truly unbearable. As the martial arts sect members quickly retreated, Wang Hao did not pursue them but instead frowned, deep in thought. He felt that obtaining sin points through killing was not suitable for him at all. After so much killing, he had only gained 50,000 sin points. And the smell of blood was too pungent, just the scent was nauseating, definitely not for him. It seems that not all villains are created equal, and butchers like these are akin to laborers, putting in the effort but earning very little, whereas those sly old foxes operating behind the scenes are like successful people, sitting in offices flirting with secretaries and earning lots of money. Wang Hao's eyes sparkled with ambition. He resolved to become a successful person, no, a successful old fox. Haha, good lad, your battle today alone is enough to be recorded in the annals of the human race, Jian Taifeng said as he landed beside Wang Hao, his eyes filled with admiration. In his long life, aside from seeking his own pleasures, nothing in the world could stir his heart anymore. But since meeting Wang Hao, he found himself surprisingly interested in this young fellow. Whether it was his unscrupulous personality, his cleverness, or his formidable combat ability, it all exceeded his expectations. Old man Jian, instead of wasting time talking, why not just give me the bright armor? Wang Hao retorted with a twist of his mouth. Haha, you really are forthright, young fellow, Jian Taifeng said without getting angry. With a gesture, the bright armor flew out from Sky Sword Villa. But as soon as the bright armor reached his hand, Jian Taifeng's expression darkened, the skies filled with dark clouds, and the ground shook violently as gruesome cracks sprawled across it. Hey, old man Jian, if you don't want to give it to me, just say so, there's no need to silence me. Wang Hao shouted, but his heart was already shocked. Was this the legendary strength of an ancient monster? With just a thought, he could change the color of heaven and earth. Here's your bright armor, Jian Taifeng tossed the bright armor to Wang Hao, then snorted coldly, who took the Dawn automatic gun? Hand it over willingly before I find out for myself, or it'll be too late. Ling Xiao and Gu Yang immediately looked up at the sky, innocently indicating they knew nothing. But inside, they bitterly smiled. It was truly unexpected that such a dignified figure would stoop to thieving. Old man Jian, your Dawn automatic gun is lost. Wang Hao asked curiously. Jian Taifeng nodded with a somber expression. I saw the Dawn before your big battle, but after your battle, it disappeared. Thus, everyone here, except you, is suspect. Ling Xiao rolled his eyes, really wanting to tell Jian Taifeng that the very person he excluded from suspicion was the shameless thief he was seeking. Senior Jian, you are mistaken, Liao Yunchuan stepped forward. It's okay to rule out Wang Hao's suspicion. But don't forget, with him was a habitual thief, who wasn't present at the scene. Jian Taifeng's eyebrows furrowed. Of course, he knew Liao Yunchuan was referring to Xiang, but he did not want to believe that this vibrant young girl would do such a thing. Whether it is true or not, we'll know once we check, Wang Hao shrugged and then led the way to the kitchen. Yes, the kitchen. Ever since this tyrant discovered Sky Sword Villa's kitchen by following his nose, he had spent his days lounging about, looking for good food, returning only at night to sleep. Chapter 320 Sky Sword Villa, in the kitchen. A group of nervous chefs watched as Xiang placed a slice of meat in her mouth and gently chewed it. The meat was cooked for too long, the texture is a bit tough, making it hard to eat and not tender. 80 points, Xiang commented before quickly finishing off a plate of stir-fried meat slices in front of her. Upon hearing this, the chefs hurriedly took note of everything Xiang mentioned. Over these days, they were surprised to find that this little foodie was not only good at eating, but also at critiquing. Especially her little tongue, which could discern the subtle changes between various ingredients. They found their own shortcomings and made a qualitative leap in their culinary skills in just a few short days. Of course, during these days, every chef grew fond of little Xiang Xiang. She might be picky in taste but wasn't fussy about food, as long as it was made, she ensured not to waste and would eat everything. You know, for gourmets, encountering unsatisfactory dishes, it is normal to eat a bite and for the more dismissive, to even spit it out, which would severely hurt their pride. But Xiangxiang's clean eating and non-discriminatory attitude moved them deeply. At that moment, Tai Feng and a large group of people quickly walked in. Seeing this, the chefs hurriedly stepped forward to greet them. Senior Jian, Family Head, Young Master Yang, all young masters and misses, hello. Gu Jian nodded his head and asked, I'm asking you, did Miss Xiang Xiang leave just now? The chefs shook their heads blankly, indicating she hadn't. See that? Wang Hao gave Liao Yunchuan a challenging look, this has nothing to do with our family's Xiang Xiang. Liao Yunchuan said indifferently, Wang Hao, whether it's related or not still needs investigation. Besides, everyone knows you have a rabbit capable of dimension space, if you had it steal the Dunlight, it would be unnoticed. Little White, standing on Wang Hao's shoulder, hands on hips, huffed, this precious rabbit was out slaughtering with Wang Hao just now, which of your eyes saw this precious rabbit stealing anything? The room instantly went silent, everyone staring at Little White in disbelief. It spoke. This rabbit actually spoke? Could this be a divine beast? Tai Feng also curiously looked at Little White, realizing that apart from being able to speak, its combat strength was only at the level of martial arts sect, surely not a divine beast. Ling Xiao and Gu Yang rolled their eyes, not surprised it was Wang Hao's rabbit. All of them were actors. Clearly, they had stolen the Dunlight, yet they could still pose as victims. Such shameless rascals, truly unrivaled. Wang Hao snorted coldly, so, you mean to say the Dunlight definitely was taken by me? Liao Yunchuan shrugged innocently, I didn't say that, just that the suspicion on you is the greatest. Why is Wang Hao the most suspected? Someone asked. Liao Yunchuan confidently smiled, Sky Sword Villa was just surrounded by hundreds of thousands of soldiers, making it impossible for anyone to enter or leave. And we all know that the Dunlight is Senior Jian's treasure, so even if you gave us 10 times the courage, we wouldn't dare steal it. But Wang Hao is a daring person, and stealing the Dunlight is indeed possible. As soon as he finished speaking, Tai Feng's gaze also fell on Wang Hao, as Liao Yunchuan's words were logical and convincing. With his authority today, no one dared to challenge him. If someone dared to steal the Dunlight, it must be without knowing his identity. But since the outside was tightly surrounded just now, it was obviously impossible for outsiders to enter, so the possibility of outsiders stealing the treasure was essentially ruled out. Inside the Sky Sword Villa, everyone knew his identity, and it was unlikely anyone would dare to make a move. Of course, this did not include Wang Hao, because not only was this guy cunning, but he also had the audacity of heaven, making it quite possible he could steal the Dunlight. Cut! Wang Hao said with a dismissive sneer, according to your logic, I might say that the person most suspect is you. Me? Liao Yunchuan pointed to himself and laughed incredulously, I, Liao Yunchuan, am upright and unafraid, if you can, tell me why I would be the most suspect. Wang Hao's eyes twinkled mischievously as he looked at Xia Weiwei with emotion, earlier, my dear Weiwei rejected your love and even acknowledged our relationship, so you harbor resentment and blame me. As soon as he finished speaking, the whole room burst into an uproar. I didn't hear about this. Xia family's little princess actually fell for Wang Hao. When did they start? This means Wang Hao is going to rise to prominence now. Damn, not only is he backed by Skyfire Company and the Potion Guild, but even Senior Jian looks at him differently. I didn't expect he'd also become the Xia family's favored son-in-law. Who would dare touch him now? Xia Weiwei felt so frustrated she could die. She had only spoken that way to keep Liao Yunchuan from pestering her, but that damn Wang Hao had gone public with it. If this gets out, what if it's taken for the truth? Weiwei, do you want to go up and explain? Li Xian asked with concern. Xia Weiwei gnawed on her little fangs, huffing, how do I explain? After saying it's not true, won't Liao Yunchuan, that sticky plaster, immediately stick to me again? Shuek Yunqin sighed, I feel it's better not to explain, let time forget everything. Li Xian thought for a bit, but if this news spreads, it still won't be good for Weiwei's reputation, will it? Xia Weiwei puffed her cheeks and huffed, I'm not planning to get married, what use is a reputation to me? Besides, this gives me a chance to use Wang Hao's name to stir up trouble from now on. Shuek Yunqian's eyelids twitched and she asked tentatively, Wai Wei, you're not really planning to achieve your grand dream, are you? Xia Wai Wei clenched her little fists, her face serious. Exactly, I will have a harem of 3,000 beauties, and you two are definitely on my list. Li Xian and Shuek Yunqian glanced at each other, both reading helplessness in the other's eyes. They couldn't understand why Xia Wai Wei had such a terrifying idea. But figuring that Xia Wai Wei lacked the tools for the crime, they had nothing to fear and took it as a sign of deep friendship among women. Wang Hao, stop spouting nonsense. As the president's son, how could I be so petty? Liao Yunchuan huffed coldly. Wang Hao mockingly said, Oh, the president's son, hey? Who decided that the president's son couldn't be a villain? You, Liao Yunchuan's face turned livid with anger. Everyone shut your mouths, Jian Taifeng commanded coldly, I'm saying this one last time, return the dawnlight, and I will let bygones be bygones. But if I find out who it was, don't blame me for being ruthless. As he spoke, an immense pressure swept over everyone.